work this shop.
What is this? Well, I'm not ready to eat it yet. It just depends on how long this goes. Everybody wants me to be in a good mood, which means food.
Okay, at this time I would call to order the workshop session this afternoon for the Sweetwater County Board of County Commissioners. And there is, of course, a quorum present. And with that, I'll turn the floor over. Let's start out with Mr. Slaughter, our treasurer, to bring us some information regarding budget. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Once again, Rob Slaughter, Sweetwater County Treasurer. I had intended today to kind of go through in depth the effects that new legislation, Senate File number 60, was going to have on our budget. But as you well know, I've been extremely concerned about this bill since first seeing it and having been working on it for a long time. And it came to our attention at the Treasurers Association meetings that we were at in Casper last week, that several of the things that we were told had been taken care of in this bill may not have been taken care of and will be creating some problems. So we are going to have several treasurers that are going to try and meet with the County Commissioners Association on Thursday in your Revenue Committee meeting to express our concerns. And so what I'd like to do, if I could, is just lead in today to your budget workshop with kind of an overview of what's going to happen with that bill, where the problems are with it, and how it will potentially affect the budget. And then let Bonnie come in. We'll talk about the budget. And as we get deeper into the budget, we can talk about the specifics of what's going to go on. So earlier this morning, I actually received an email from Joel Shell, who is the treasurer in Converse County. He has been working as basically the liaison for the Treasurers Association with both the legislature and with the county commissioners and with Jeremiah Riemann in putting these specifics of Senate File 60 together and working on it during the legislative process. So he actually sent me a copy of an email that he sent out to Representative Eric Barlow, who is a representative in Campbell and Converse counties, responding to a question from Representative Barlow. And I think this summarizes things probably much more concisely than what I would have done today. It's going to give you the same information, but if you've got questions on this, please stop me, because this is extremely important. But I think we can probably talk about this for 5 minutes rather than the 30 minutes I was going to go through it and give you an overview. So if it pleases you, Mr. Chairman, I'll read this. So basically, it starts, Representative Barlow sends an email to Joel Shell. Good morning. I hope this finds you well. I received some concerns from another legislator about the implementation of Senate File 60 that came up at a recent treasurers meeting. Any feedback is appreciated. This is Treasurer Shell's response. It says, good morning, Eric. I'm doing well, enjoying the spring weather. I hope you are doing well also. Yes, after meeting 2 weeks ago with representatives from WCCA and the DOR, the treasurers have lots of concerns. The sentiment from the treasurers meetings last week was to storm the governor's office, but cooler heads prevailed for now. I was one of those cooler heads, I want you to know. First and foremost, the language passed in House Bill 159 during the 2020 session required mineral producers with a severance tax liability under $30,000 to pay their 2020 production taxes by February 25th of this year. Counties expected a distribution of that tax in March. The DOR did not collect those taxes and offered no explanation as to why they were not collected or how they should now be collected, other than to suggest that counties exempt those companies from the process and collect it ourselves. I hope this is not a bellwether for the department's approach to collecting ad valorem taxes for counties. So the issue with respect to this is We no longer have the authority with the new bill in place to bill the taxes as we always have. They are supposed to be making this payment annually to the department, and the department transferring this on to us. My suggestion to the treasurers at that point in time was, we have no choice. We are probably going to have to bill these, even though we do not have the authority. And it creates an issue if the companies do not pay it. Do we have the authority to levy interest on these things? But that's one of the first problems that we have with respect to this bill. Director Noble, the Treasurers Association met last week in Casper and invited Director Noble to attend, but he did not respond to our invitation. Although the law requires the counties and the department to calculate the mineral tax liability for the second half of 2020 and all of 2021, there have been no discussions between the DOR and counties on the methodology to calculate that liability. Okay, why is that a concern? Under the provisions of that law, it's anticipated that Sweetwater County would be receiving $100 million on those taxes for the second half of tax year 2020 and calendar year 2021. We've had no discussions with the department. The law states that we will, in conjunction with the department, determine what that tax liability is and how we will bill that. To give you an indication, the way that's intended, that $100 million would be paid back to the county over a 12.5-year period beginning December of 2023. So for our purposes, the general county fund will be receiving $13.5 million over that period of time, or $1,087,000 a year. And the other entities, obviously the schools being the largest part of it, would be collecting $6.4 million each year for that total of about $100 million. Now, we do have time with respect to this, because once again, this is something that is not anticipated to take place until the end of calendar year 23. But once again, we feel like it's very important that we have these discussions, and there's been nothing which has led us to believe that the department wants to talk about these things. Director Noble reported to our working group 2 weeks ago that the DOR has not yet made changes to their computer system to accommodate monthly payments, as ETS has not yet approved their business case, and he doubted the system would be prepared to collect monthly payments in January of 2022 as required. Counties are very concerned about this development. We believe the DOR must be given whatever resources are required to be prepared to collect mineral taxes in January. Director Noble also stated that when the department begins to distribute mineral tax payments to counties, we would only receive amounts by taxpayer and not by tax district. Apparently, the department system is not capable of collecting tax district information, and to make that change would cost more and cause further delays. County treasurers have no reasonable methodology of distributing those tax dollars without knowing the originating tax district. Okay. This is extremely important. We have many, many taxpayers that are paying taxes in multiple districts on multiple levies, and if we receive a check, we have no idea where to put that money. The reconciliation process is also a concern. Treasurers considered the reconciliation to be focused on updating the mill levy when it's set for the current year and applying it to the payments made using the prior year levy. However, the DOR is considering each monthly payment to be an estimate, not only by mill levy, but in value and tax district. The department only expects the valuation and tax district information to be accurate when the taxpayer files their annual report in June. If so, the reconciliation process would true up the mill levy. Okay, that concern is really a major concern in the respect we understood that we would have to true it up to the new mill levy that's set each year. We anticipated that that would be probably less than a 2 to 4% change from year to year. But potentially if the companies are sending us estimates, that estimate could potentially be millions of dollars different than what the ultimate true up would be. So it would be a situation where we would either be sending additional tax revenue to the entities, or we would be asking for money back from them in addition to doing that true up for the mill levies. So very important once again. Continuing that sentence, it said value in tax districts for the previous production year in its entirety, making it a much more involved and disruptive process. Everything possible should be done to encourage the monthly payments to be as accurate as possible to minimize the magnitude of reconciliation, especially between tax districts. Reconciling millions of dollars of over and under payments between school districts and special districts could be disastrous. Obviously, you can see where the problem would come with respect to that. One of the things we hope to discuss with Director Noble is the notification to taxpayers of the new process. Although annual filers were required to pay their production taxes in February, we doubt any of them were made aware of the change or were prepared to pay. All mineral producers must be made aware of the new statutory provisions, but we have no details as to the department's plan to disseminate that information. Many treasurers have met with boards of special districts and schools to advise them of the changes and the impacts on the budgetary process. Many districts that are not at their maximum levy reasonably indicated that they would increase their levies to hedge against the uncertainty and volatility of the monthly payments. The result is that the mill levies will increase statewide and property taxes will increase for all taxpayers. Of course, the mineral taxpayers will be impacted more than others. Treasurers also expressed a lot of concern about the default rate on the deferred 2020-2021 taxes from companies that leave the state. One of our large taxpayers sold their assets this year and is no longer operating in the county. I'm hopeful that they will still be sending us checks in 2030 for their 2021 production, but I'm also doubtful. That 13-year window is a long time. We have lots of questions about the administration of the loans, but we're waiting for the rules and guidance to come from the state treasurer's office. Treasurers continue to work on the administrative issues. We have our vendors working on the changes to county computer systems. We are meeting with the County Commissioners Association in Rock Springs on Thursday and have another meeting scheduled with the DOR and industry next week. Our level of concern cannot be understated. I don't have to tell you how important it is that we get this right. I appreciate that you reached out, Joel. So those are the concerns that we have. One of the immediate concerns, and this will take place when Bonnie starts talking about the budget that you're going to talk about now, is what will take place when we start receiving those monthly distributions. Because for this fiscal year, we are going to use the mineral tax valuation and the billing for the first half of 2020's production to fund the first half of our expenditures for this year. So the first 6 months of this fiscal year, we will be receiving that money. Effective January 1st, we will not get a payment. We won't receive a payment in February. We won't receive a payment in March. We will not receive a payment in April. That's when the department will actually theoretically be sending that information on to us so that we can then make payment of those taxes by the 10th of May. So we have a 4-month period that we will have no revenue coming in this fiscal year. I think Bonnie has anticipated that that's going to be about a $3 million decrease to the budget, which you're looking at, maybe a little more than $3 million. And that, because we operate on the cash basis of accounting, even though it's anticipated that we could borrow that money or we will receive that money back from the loans that are anticipated with that additional money we receive, beginning with those 8% payments, that it will be reflected in your budget negatively as a $3 million decrease. So that's basically what we're looking at. It's very serious. As we talked many, many times, the committee, the County Commissioners Committee, has stated that they have a concept for how this will be handled. I hope they do. I hope that it's right. We'll find out a lot more on Thursday, and then we'll work from there. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Otherwise, we'll work through the budget, and if there are things specific to what will take place from this, I will try and help with that.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Questions, commissioners? Answers coming, right? Don't hold your breath.
May or may not like it.
Yeah, don't hold your breath either. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one. And with that, we will follow right in with Miss Berry and with our budget workshop, and she'll direct us as to what she wants us to do for her. Good afternoon, Bonnie.
Good afternoon. Let's see if we can get this. Password?
It's right there.
Right there.
She doesn't have access to the drive, so.
Okay, that's why I brought this. I didn't know if it did or not, because I know it didn't before, so. While we're waiting for this to start, I did send out a new budget workshop packet probably about an hour or two ago. Did you receive this? And do you want a hard copy? I printed out several hard copies if you want a hard copy.
I'll take her.
Okay, that way you can take notes.
I'm good.
Because this one on here is not.
It is.
Right?
The one that I emailed.
No, this is our packet was not right.
It wasn't in your packet.
Yeah, it was right there.
Oh, nope, that one was not right. Nope, that's the outdated one. Okay.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Okay. All right, I think we are ready to go. So I like to start out by thanking Rob for his presentation. And I'm glad he did it prior to this because it explains a little bit why our revenues are projected to be so low this year. So if you turn to the first page. This kind of gives you a snapshot of where we are in the budget process, what the requests are, what our anticipated revenues are right now. So right now we're anticipating about 35.5 million in revenues, which excludes the grant revenue. This is for the general fund we're talking about. The expenditures that were, so the requests by the departments were about 34 million, component units about 7.9 million, and outside agencies about 5.7 million, which that totals about 47.8 million in expenditures. So we're looking at a shortfall right there of about $12.2 million. Grant revenues, 6.2 million. That does include the American Rescue Plan money, the 4.1 million we anticipate receiving from that. And then grant expenditures, 2.5 million. So total shortfall overall of about $8.5 million. If you turn to the next page, there's some comparative information. Which helps kind of show you where we are compared to last year. So our revenues are down significantly, almost or about $7.9 million. And that decrease is due to about $4.5 million in the valuation and about $3.7 million. It's down because we're not collecting 4 months of the minerals. That's what we're projecting right now, not to collect 4% due to that Senate File 60 that Rob just talked about. So we're looking at a pretty big decrease in revenues for those two reasons. And you can see the departments, their requests are down by about 9.4%, about 3.5 million. Component units down by about 12.4%. outside agencies up 4%. So we're looking at an overall decrease in requests compared to the fiscal year 2021 budget, a decrease of 8.5%. So about $4.4 million. But because of that significant revenue decrease that we're anticipating, it's not making up the difference. So we're looking at a total shortfall of 12.2 million, and that does not include the grants. And then you can see the grants below the revenue and the expenditures. And again, that 4.1 million we anticipate receiving from the American Rescue Plan Act, the direct federal aid to counties, is included in that $6.2 million number. So we're looking at a total shortfall of $8.5 million if we use that $4.1 million just to offset the shortfall in revenue. If you don't want to include that, because I did listen to the meeting earlier today, it sounded like there was some interest in including that in infrastructure, using that money for infrastructure rather than to offset the shortfall in revenue. We're looking at a $12.6 million shortfall.
Excuse me, but the rescue money will have specific guidelines.
It does, and one of those guidelines is for a decrease in revenue.
So
We don't know the exact guidance for it yet, but just from the language in that act, it sounds like it can be used for a shortfall in revenue to make up for that shortfall in
And-
revenue due to COVID.
sure, it will help, but it's only soft money.
Yes,
So it doesn't take care of the problem in the long run.
no,
No, it doesn't.
but this $3.7 million that we are losing this year, though, for not collecting 4 months of mineral, that's just for this year as well. So that will go back up too in the future.
So
Are there any questions so far?
my preference, no questions, but just statement is my preference with the 4.1 million is, and then the next one is set it aside and see where we're at.
So take it out.
I would like to, my preference
Okay.
is take it out. I don't
Okay.
know how the other commissioners feel, because it's just a soft Band-Aid. We've got to knuckle down and get some things taken care of.
Okay, so we can take that out. So for next budget workshop, I will take that out of that grant revenue. I included it in grant revenue because it is federal funding, so it is considered grant revenue. I will take out that 4.1 million. And I didn't know how you
No,
were
that's fine. I'm
anticipating
glad-
spending it,
I'm
so.
glad you did it. I'm glad you told us about it, but we
Okay.
can always go back.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, there have been no decisions made on it thus far, so. And then also I did run a calculation of the cash carryover. Right now I am anticipating it'll be about $500,000, which is better than the last time I ran it. I know that doesn't sound good, but we are, just to remind you, the cash carryover is made up of over-collected revenues and underspent budget money. So if a department doesn't spend all of their budget, that goes into cash carryover. Also, if we overcollect on our revenues, overcollect what we budgeted, that goes into cash carryover. Well, we've had some issues this year where we are under collecting on our revenue, and it's pretty significant. So last time I did a cash carryover projection, those revenues were estimated to be more under collected than my underspent expenditures. So we were running a negative, but right now we're positive. So that's
Positive, how
good.
much?
About $500,000 if you
Okay.
do not include the American Rescue Plan Act money, because we are anticipating collecting half of it this year, this fiscal year, and half of it next fiscal year. So if I don't include that, it's about $500,000. Okay, any questions on that so far? All right, well, the rest of the time, and I don't, if, I guess it's up to you what you want to do, because you're the ones that make the budget decisions. I was planning on going through all of the summary information that I provided for the departments, component units, outside agencies, and determining who you want to meet with. I know that previously you did meet with these entities, departments, elected officials, component units. Is that something you still want to do? Is that how we want to proceed? I know we discussed it earlier and it was a little up in the air. That was the direction I was given at that time, but I didn't know if that was still how you wanted to proceed.
Go ahead, commissioners.
I think I think we can go through them. I think that the discussions that we've had with the entities that we were assigned is what's going to be helpful so that perhaps
Okay.
they don't need to come in. So I think we
Okay.
need to address each one of them, but as we get to each one, say we get to the youth home, which I spoke with, I can explain
Okay.
why their request is what it is.
Okay, that's great. And I don't know any of that information that was
Kept it
discussed
secret
with
from
them,
me.
so,
We sh-
um,
nothing for-
okay, well, if there aren't any other issues to discuss.
Just, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think as we go through this, I just have a couple points of clarification as we decide who we're gonna meet with and stuff. And I wonder if it's important, maybe either before we have this discussion or after this comes through, that we start looking at how much we're willing to take from reserves to balance the budget this year, because I think that makes a big influence on who I might speak and how much we need to, be looking at reducing the budget. And then I think the second question is when we start talking about meeting with agencies, um, just because I know this could be a little bit different this year, are we focusing on talking with agencies? We have questions about their budget or concerns with their budget, or are we going to be talking to agencies that we may have to potentially be looking at bringing them in and having that conversation that we may have to be making reductions to? So I guess what kind of decision-making matrix do we need to use in deciding who we want to be meeting with? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Does anybody want to answer that?
Go ahead, Doc.
Well, I've got my opinion.
Okay.
Number one, I think, first of all, when you take a look at our budget and what our responsibilities are, core government becomes first, and then it's which is statutorily required. And then there are statutorily required parts in our component units that need to be met. And there are parts that don't by statute. And then you have your outside agencies that are not by statute, something that we need to fund. I think we asked our outside agencies this year and everybody to do the 20% minimum. Some did more than that, and some did not do any of it. And therefore, with that in mind, I think they need to even put on notice that next year it could be 20 again or more, because our budget isn't going to look any better. And there's no way we can put them on notice if we don't have them here to visit with them.
Absolutely.
And with that in mind, I'm sorry, but yeah, we've got to talk with every one of them. I'm not sure where we want to go with core government, but or elected budgets. But I'm of the mind that, this isn't just going to go away. Throwing money at it isn't going to help. The long-term fix is basically getting to where we're funding what we're required to fund, because if money stays short, there's no way we can continue on this direction.
I agree.
And with that in mind, all you have to do is take a look at county core, see what it costs totally. Then you take a look at which is salaries and benefits, and then you take a look at their operating, and then capital, and you take a look at what those costs are. Then you end up with X amount of dollars to take care of component units, and then your outside agencies, and we just don't have it. I looked at some of the outside agencies, and I just look at and started looking through them, and I'm going, no, this isn't right. We asked them to do minimum of 20%. Some of them can do better based on their cash carryover. They need to do it. They need to do it, as well as the component units need to be talked about as what is it we need to fund with you statutorily. I can look at a couple of them and just kind of say, hey, we're responsible to fund this part of your component unit. We're willing to do it, but what are those services we need done that we're going to fund, and you're going to assure we get those services, rather than just hand them a check and then they do with that check and wherever they want to, and we don't even know if services are being rendered totally. It's not a good time for budget. And I know we want to help everybody we can, but realistically, we could. Let's just throw the whole reserves at them, and that'll take care of it. But we can't do that. We cannot do that. It's going to be some hard time, and we can't have those hard conversations if we don't have them in and talk to them and serve notice. Yes, some of them, I'll guarantee you, when I look through them, it's going to decimate some of them. But at least by giving them a year's notice, they can start finding other places to get revenue through grants and through local support. The county's not the answer all at this point in time, nor do I believe it will be for 2 or 3 years. I believe possibly in 3 to 4 years, there'll be some change, but I don't know if it's going to be significant enough to make up 8 to 12 million a year for the next 2 years. And this is a cycle, up and down cycle. And where I'm at with it is, I think they need to come in. I mean, we have visited, we do know what our elected officials' budgets are. But again, too, we need to have that reassurance that, hey, have we done everything we can to reduce that budget? And it starts off, first of all, with us as commissioners. I think we need to model it. And I think the first group, if you call in, Bonnie, at the next workshop to go over budget is commissioners. You get out a statement of how the money's being spent in the commissioners' budget items to the commissioners, where the money's being spent in that area, and the commissioners sit. And we model. It's not going to be easy. None of it is. Not to make up that kind of money. In order to stabilize this county, I have a firm belief it's through economic development. I talked about that this morning. I'm going to hold firm on that. I think that's a prime priority. But I just, these outside agencies and some of these component units are going to have to understand. They're going to have to probably operate a little differently because we cannot just write checks. I'm going to ask Tim in the technology department to some way and how purchase a money printing machine from the government, federal government, or see if we can borrow theirs. But I don't think that's a reality. I think it's serious. I really do. I think we're at a serious time, and I'm sorry, some people are going to get decimated. Some agencies may get decimated, especially when they come back next year, because we got to have that reduced budget. We can't, it's the best I can say. I'm willing to go back to original plan. I was willing to spend some reserves. We already agreed on that. But to this extreme, I can't accept that. I'm going to go back and just say, hey, cuts aren't going to be pretty. I stood on the grounds for the core government and department heads for Core County that, you know what, I don't want to balance the budget, would not balance the budget on the back of employees.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if we don't get this taken care of, next year could be the same way. I may have to change that support for next year. We may be able to get there on the backs of the people that get hired and that type of thing. But right now, no. I'm just sharing this with the commissioners. I know I'm looking at you, but you can't fix it, but I'm just looking out in the audience. So,
Can I add in there?
yeah,
Mr.
sure you
Chairman?
can. I'm done. Thank
Good,
you.
Thank you. Excellent. Nicely said. I agree with that. I do think that there was a reason we did the process this way. I don't know that we need to see everybody in here that, like the airport that has a 30% increase. There's an explanation for that and a good one. That's why we were assigned to go visit with these people. And I think that's what we do today is say, okay, well, yeah, they only did a 4% decrease or they did a 20% increase. Why? And that's what the information that we should be bringing today if we visited with our budget liaison assignments so that we don't have to have every one of these people come in, every one of these groups.
No, every one of the groups. I agree with that.
And Roy, can you turn down the
But
heat?
I
Holy
think
cow, it's getting warm.
I think there's some of them that are not joint power boards, component units. I mean, not component units is a different conversation, but
Outside agencies. Yeah.
departments that probably would not have to come in because we visited with them. But the ones that are drastically impacted now and in the future are going to be those outside agencies and some of those components. So as far as core government and that goes, I'm okay in elected officials with not calling in some of those. But some of them, if we get through this, may have to. Okay? That's my comments. Thanks, Roy.
Mr. Chairman, can I say one thing to that?
Sure.
I totally agree with you, and I think that these are going to be ugly, drastic cuts. And what I'm saying is, I think before we start making the cuts, it'd be nice to say, we're going to use 3 million on reserves. So we know that number, 9 million or whatever we're aiming for as we make those decisions, because I think that has a significant impact as we make decisions. And I do agree that we got to focus on core and by the end of next year, we've got to be balanced. I mean, that there's no doubt to it. But I think if we know that total number of reserves we're willing to use, I know we said we're willing to really take the reserves down to 25 million, but I know we don't want to do that this year alone. I think knowing that number and knowing what our target number is of 7 million or 8 million is what we got to cut, it makes a significant difference as we make decisions.
No, I agree with you. I think when we get done, we can do just what you requested. And I think we as commissioners, as we're going through this, we can save that little piece of our minds and roll over. What is that magical number for reserves we're willing to spend this year? And we could give you that probably at the end of this session.
Do you know, Bonnie, what reserves look
Thank
like
you.
today?
We were projecting them to be roughly $34 million. So that's about where we are. And I know you agreed to go down to about 25. So that's about $9 million. But I believe that was over a period of time.
What did we agree on?
25?
25? Okay.
Mhm.
I didn't agree on that, but
No, you didn't. You're right.
I didn't either.
but I'll say
I know
again,
you
it's
didn't.
the taxpayers' money. We should be spending it on the taxpayers, not hanging on to it.
That I agree.
Thank you, Bonnie. I like Bonnie.
Well, my recommendation was 15 million.
I
So
was trying to go.
All right.
That was,
Do you want to bleed this year or do you want to bleed next year?
You got a good point. Okay, let's go on.
okay. All right, let's go through them. So departments, let's talk first about the commissioner's budget. There's a decrease of 1.47%, which is $6,288. And Chairman, you said you wanted to
Yep,
discuss
okay.
that. Do you want to discuss that at
now.
the next
Okay,
meeting or
next meeting. Let's
next
follow your
meeting?
form.
Okay, so I will say yes on that then.
But make sure you send out that, I think a while back you sent me a copy. I asked on how the budget was expended,
On how detailed do you want it?
detailed so they can,
Like, so each charge,
yep. Well, not so much each charge, but
each
where the-
line item?
Line item.
Okay.
By line item to every commissioner so they can
Line
look at it
item. Okay,
and start slicing and dicing.
okay, line item report. I can do that. All right, next one is engineering. This one is down 34.10%, a decrease of $162,331.
Who had engineering? That would be Gene, Public Works.
Yeah.
me.
And Jeff and I met with Gene. I don't think we can dice that anymore because that's not replacing a position we were looking at with an assistant engineer. And really, it's a one-man department. So I don't know if there's a whole lot else that there is to cut in that specific to engineering.
So what you're saying is if you went any deeper, you'd be cutting people.
Yeah.
Okay, so no.
Okay,
And before we get to facilities, I think, well,
Go ahead.
the way that we did it with Gene was we looked at overall his responsibility to get to the 20%. So yeah, 34 there, only 1%, next, but obviously a much smaller budget. So overall, his dollar amount was down about 3.5 million, if I remember right.
So it's just your feeling
He was,
we need to. call
overall,
him?
he was about 31% down
So you,
over his responsibilities.
over his responsibilities, you're suggesting we don't need to call him in.
I don't think so.
Anybody disagree?
Roy
with
worked
that?
him over pretty good.
I don't.
Huh?
I don't think we need to. I think he's made significant cuts. And Mary will take one down. She's already got one. She'll pass it down. That's from Gary. And that's just an overview of departments, number of positions cut over the last 20 years, 10 years. I think that's just helpful information. So, but I don't think we can really cut anything else from Gene's either. I'd agree with Jeff.
Andy went 31%. So I mean, it's
I-
way beyond what we asked. So that's
No,
hard
but
to complain about.
Yeah, we should be able, I agree with, and that goes back to what you said about calling people in. So, all right, so I would say no on facilities. Facilities maintenance, no as well.
Mhm.
Facilities park and rec, no as well.
Mhm.
Okay, fire marshal, that'd be me. cut 12%. My conversations with the fire marshal was, if we went any further, what would that do to your budget? He says, the only place you can do is remove personnel. You know, next step to get any more percentage outside of what you need would be personnel. So I told him, you know, I'd present it to you as commission and you would decide. Yes, sir, go ahead.
What is his capital for?
It's for, one is for a lease payment. I think about half of it is for a lease payment that we're already committed to. And then the other half is for a new lease that he is anticipating.
And
And that is in the, I'm glad I brought this. Let's find fire. 23,500 is for a new lease on a CF1 3/4 ton truck.
Firefighting truck.
no, chief truck, just for him, if I remember right.
I would like to review that
Okay.
with him.
Want me to review it with him?
Yeah, yes, please. I mean, I'd like to know the total vehicles and what we're looking at with that.
And if I remember right, the operating committee actually had that as one of our lower rated purchases needed based upon priority and need.
That was number 16. That was the lowest one for the year.
Could you say that again, Commissioner Lloyd?
Yeah, when on our capital spreadsheet that Gene had sent out was that was our lowest choiced, our lowest position capital project. We'd actually, capital projects came out to about $2.96 million approximately. Almost, I think a significant amount, almost $1 million of that was just in the current leases we're under. But then we ranked the rest, and I think if I remember right, that vehicle was one of our latest rate pieces. So, and Bonnie
Yes.
said, I think 16 to 16.
It was number 16, yes.
I don't know if you've already sent that out, but can you send the list? Somebody send
I-
the list of
I
that
haven't
out?
seen it.
I
Because
can, let me find a
would
copy. I got a
love
copy.
To look
from
at
Gene.
all of these capital expenses and cut it to the top, like however many we think are appropriate for this year.
Okay, and I can do that. I think that was I know there was a lot of confusion about the capital and whether you include it in your budget or not. Mike actually did he included the lease payment that we are required to pay in his budget, and he didn't include the other one, but these weren't included anywhere else. So I went, and that's why you saw some of the expenditures go up, because some people included them and some didn't. So I went ahead and just put them in this, just so you can see them, and at any point we can decide to remove them. So I don't know that it necessarily requires him to come in, or if it's something you just want to
We can
evaluate.
talk with them individually and that type of thing.
Okay,
And I'd like to just say this, with this capital ranking, that's kind of new for
Oh, yeah.
everybody. So I expect some bumps, but as time goes on, those bumps will work out after we know what we want to do with them and everything like that. So
Yeah, and after we cut everywhere else that we can, I think that's where we can really look at, what can we do? I mean, we may not be able to do
might not be able to do number
any,
one.
right?
well, number one is a lease payment that we're
Yeah.
required to pay, so we kind of have to do number one.
Okay. So we'll
There's
do
like a
number one.
19-way tie for one.
Signatures on.
We
lease
might not
payments.
be able to re-roof the detention center, that's number 2.
Signatures on the lease payments.
I believe it's yours, isn't it?
Okay, then we won't. do what I was gonna suggest.
Doesn't the chairman sign the lease?
I don't know. I probably
Doesn't
do.
remember.
Yes, I do. I was gonna say.
I
just-
thought you
Yeah, I
did.
know it. I was gonna say, just don't pay it and he'll go to jail. What in the world could be a better place right now?
Well, with a leaky roof, I
Don't
don't
say
know.
that. That's capital.
Well, it's the re-roof detention center is
All
number
right.
2 on the
Thank
list,
you.
so.
All right, I'll take care of that with
Okay,
Mike.
so no, yes. What was that? Of this?
One of these.
I
Oh.
want one too. I have like 4
Okay,
pages.
This
of-
is my last one.
Okay, it's fine.
In case anyone else wants to do
Yeah,
it.
it's good.
Uh-uh.
I'm good.
Okay.
We have some volunteers to give theirs up.
I think it was Lauren that
I
needed
are,
one.
yeah, I will.
Or-
Okay, so fleet
Thank you.
vehicles, that's out of.
That's
Mark's.
under Jean.
Gene?
Yep.
Okay, so,
Were we okay with that?
yep. Because I heard everything that the Department of Public Works has worked on, the group that met with him, Phil, there's been
Okay.
good work done there. General.
Gener-
county,
Yeah, general county admin. So this is down 16.4%, down $48,327.
Okay,
Are we a no on that one?
commissioners?
I
First
don't-
of all, does everybody know what that is? Go ahead, Monty, what is that?
Okay, so the total budget for this is $246,000. So this kind of encompasses like stuff that's overall county stuff, not necessarily to one specific department. So you'll have the audit included in here, which is 80-something $1,000. Legal, we've had quite a few legal expenses go in there. That makes up a big chunk of it. That's why it has gone up a little bit. We've got shredding for the county, just miscellaneous countywide things. So it's a total of 246,000. So it's not that much. So the audit takes up a big chunk of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Commissioners, your
we
thoughts?
cut where we could on that one.
Is there any one person that's in charge of that, or is it just?
So Cindy and I kind of put it together with Marty, because Marty takes care of the e-waste, shredding, that kind of stuff. So a couple of us who have the charges in there, kind of come up with it together, put those numbers in there. Oh, and like Marty pays for, because she is in purchasing, pays for some of the legal subscriptions. So she said that might come down if they get rid of some of those paper ones. So that's in there too.
You review a lot of that stuff when you post it, don't you?
Mhm.
Do you think there's anything in there that you could,
If there isn't much.
there isn't much, okay?
I mean, the legal can vary a little bit, so we might be able to take some out of there, but if we have more legal fees than we anticipate, we could do a budget amendment. So, I mean, potentially we could take a little bit out.
Well, it's up to the commission if they want to, and if we do a budget amendment if we have to, that would be someplace.
I got a big question mark next to it, so.
Yeah, I have a
Come
question.
back to
Carry
that.
on, yeah.
Okay, let's go, we'll come back to it if we need
We'll
to.
say that's a maybe.
Okay. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Okay, the next one is grants admin. So this one's down 6.2%, a total of $10,690.
That's Christina. I mean, we can't cut her down. She writes all the grants. You want her to work or you don't. That's
So
where that
who
is.
was her budget liaison? Visited with her?
Roy and I met with her.
And you feel good, tell us the story, you just feel good about that?
Yeah,
Is that what you said?
it's as low as she can get it. She actually took some out of there, but she may have to come in for a budget amendment if she needs to have some match money. She took some out. That's what she took out.
The match money isn't included in that.
Money's not in there. Okay,
The match money goes in with the grants,
okay. Well,
so that's not included in there.
Well, and as far as, when you start to looking at the grants, admin, payroll, operating and capital, once again, it's a one-man band in there. So really, there is not much you can truly cut. And
Right.
if you look at, if you look at operating and she really, and such, it's pretty minimal in there. So
What is her capital? I know it's $500. I'm just curious.
I honestly can't remember what her capital project was.
I can look it up and tell you.
Honestly, I would really like to see a list of all capital so that
Well, and I just emailed you
the.
everything that, but now.
Right,
anything
that's not going to be included here. I can send you a list. I have one.
Okay, thank you.
So probably would have been faster I brought my book for this purpose. It would have been faster just to open it. This computer's slow. There we go.
Thanks, Roy.
Cell phone. It's for a cell phone, $500 for a cell phone.
Ignore the first one, but the second one.
It's for cell phone?
A cell phone, yes. So are we okay with that? Should we move on? Okay. The next one is human resources. This one is down 3.62%, down $15,094.
What is that capital?
Let me get in my book. It'll be faster.
Sorry.
Well, who met, that was, who was it? That was Gary's. isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't remember what his capital was.
Did we pull out
Come
all
on,
the-
you don't have all these things memorized?
We pulled out
That's
all
a
the
long
IT.
time ago.
You pulled out all the IT, didn't you? Put it under a separate thing?
I'm wondering.
Did it all go under Tim?
Here we go, right here. Okay. Scanner, $1,000 for a scanner.
Probably for the new bamboo stuff, right?
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then there was another 1,000 in there, but it didn't say what it was for. So I don't know what the other 1,000 was for.
What does our capital budget say? Like anything over 500? What is
The capital for what's on the master capital list or this one?
this one? What has to be listed under?
Oh, it's anything, basically anything that has a useful life of longer than a year is considered capital. So, yeah, a $500 cell phone is capital. Those don't get capitalized. I'll just go over our capitalization policy real quick. So we break things out in the budget. There's separate line items. One is any capital item less than 1,500. So obviously a cell phone would go into that. That's $500, or even a laptop that's $1,200 would go into that capital line item that's under $1,500. And so those get expensed out. We don't capitalize those. We don't really do anything with them. It's just for you to know, just so people aren't adding a bunch of small capital items to their budget and then requesting that same amount next year to use for something else. So that goes in there. And then we have a capital line item that's between 1,500 and 10,000. And though all of those items actually get inventoried, so they don't walk away. And then, but they don't get capitalized. I mean, they are capital items, but they, according to our capitalization policy, they're expensed during that year. They're not capitalized and depreciated. And then any equipment over $10,000 is, so vehicles, those actually do get capitalized and depreciated. And then there are different limits for infrastructure and buildings and improvements too. So that's kind of a brief overview of our capitalization policy. So yes, anything with a useful life of over a year actually goes into that capital account.
Where were we?
Okay, so we were on HR.
No, I think that they're good.
They're good.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's all payroll.
All right, the next one is risk management. And this one, it has an increase of 20%, $105,326.
One more time, what is that?
Risk management. So this is going to be our insurance. And then this also picks up like the money that we spend on to replace items that have insurance claims on them. So the insurance premiums and then the money spent to purchase items for replacement items.
And that comes out of HR?
It's actually risk management. It's its own separate,
Who
it's its own
oversees that?
separate, Gary does.
Gary.
Yes.
I should have said that comes out of Gary's department.
Well, it doesn't come out of his department. It's a separate budget, but he is over it. Yes. He oversees it. Yes.
Do you have a breakdown of what the expenses of the insurance and all of that is versus the replacement amount? Because that to me would be an estimated amount that we could potentially take out completely and have budget amendments as they come through.
We can. Yes. I
just don't know what it is. I don't know if it's worth that or not.
Right. I can tell you the majority of it is premiums. But yes, there are definitely some things in there that are for replacement items. What year, do you want a specific year to see what the breakdown is? Or do you want me to just go through all of these couple years,
Well,
last
you
3 years?
Just look at maybe the last 2 years.
Okay.
This year and year before.
This year and last year?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
I can do that. Do you just want two numbers, one for the premiums and one for, okay. Let me write that
Maybe the
down.
number of replacement,
Okay.
just so we know what that kind of looks like.
Okay. Yes.
You want to change your, what you're showing on the
Oh,
screen?
yep, I can do that. Thank you.
I wasn't watching. Thank you, Tim.
We're all buried in our spreadsheets.
All right. So risk management, do you want to meet with him for that or no?
Just, yeah. you
No?
just,
Okay. Employee benefits, this one stayed flat. This is also, Gary has oversight of this one as well. However, it is split out in the budget. Okay. Are we okay with that one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, the next one is IT. This one increased by 12.09%. It's a $216,886 increase, and that increase is due to capital. The payroll and operating are down.
That's embarrassing.
What's the capital?
Even though we gave them a raise, their payroll went down.
Well, they had one, a decrease staff.
And I know, Lauren, you've asked about capital. I can tell you the major capital expenses that we looked at as that capital committee in the 16 we sent you guys that we looked at. Capital is actually down over $3 million, and not just across departments. That also went into the component agencies on their major projects. So, and most of those projects you have in there were part of that capital worksheet, right, Tim? Okay. Just for the bigger picture of it.
Just so you know, I'm using Wally's old computer.
Will you send me what that capital breakdown looks like
Sure. It's actually on the,
on the drive?
it's on the
Okay.
N drive under, actually all of the departments. I always list their capital under all the, yeah, I can show you what it looks like.
No, it's okay. I'll get in there.
Okay.
I just didn't know it was there.
Yep, it is there. Okay, so the next one, oh, did we decide what we were gonna do with that one? Did you want to meet with Tim?
See the whites of his eyes.
I want to look at that capital, just the breakdown and see if there's anywhere that we can cut and maybe have them come in for budget requests later, but it's gonna take me a little time to look at the capital and how it breaks down.
So you're talking about doing like budget amendments as we move along?
Yeah, yeah. But I can talk to him about that
Yeah,
too.
why don't you do that? Why don't you look at it and visit with Tim? and
Yep.
Would you be okay with that, commissioners? Roy?
Yes.
Okay, and then Lauren, just let me know what you decide. Okay, the next one is juvenile probation. This one is down by 1.78%, a decrease of $9,000.
And I had juvenile probation, that's Karen, and you can see that I didn't ask specifically what her capital was, but it's down considerably. Do you have it there?
I do.
Yeah.
It looks like a replacement of 2 laptops and docking stations.
Now, the laptops are individual departments are putting in their budget, but pull that out.
Pull it out. Okay.
That's why yours went up so much, right? Because you're all of it.
That's part of yours. Okay, very good. 4,500 you pulled out.
First cut.
Woohoo!
On our way to 8.5 million, just like that. $4,500.
99.
1/79th of the way there.
Whoa, did you just do that math?
Oh, no.
Come on.
I just threw a number out, Jeff.
Anyhow, but
A
otherwise,
lot less than that.
otherwise I would say she's good to go.
No.
She didn't have much.
No? Okay.
Talking with her, it was if anything else were to be cut, it would be people. Yeah, she's
Her next step's people.
Okay. All right, the next one is land use. This one, so we broke this one out. Eric wanted, for reporting purposes, to see this a little differently. So I broke out economic development. So this one, you can't really compare it, but just with the land use, once I took out the economic development, it's a decrease of 30.47%, 241,000. However, if you look at the next one, there's 87,227 that was in land use the previous year. So really, it's only a decrease of about 150,000, not the 241.
Keep in mind, we will, through our agreement, get
Yeah, get 2/3 of it back.
Yeah, you will get $60,000, 30 from each of the cities. That's correct.
land use thoughts, Commissioner?
I think we're good.
That's what's a little bit confusing about this is Okay, it makes that part of our budget. And I guess you show the income when like cities and counties or towns are gonna give you back 60,000. But if there'd be some way, I know it'd be hard to put it on here, but if there's some way of showing how much of that funding come from someone else.
Oh, I can do that. I actually did that when I started and it confused everyone. So I don't do it anymore, but I would be happy to provide that.
As far as revenue that-
Yeah, as far as revenues for the different departments.
revenue that comes in almost through all of our elected offices.
Yeah, a lot of the departments have revenue, so it just was confusing people a lot. And then the commissioners would question, well, why is it down? Because I would show total revenue, I'd show the revenue and the expenditures and then a net amount. And the commissioners were questioning, oh, well, why is your budget up? Well, it wasn't up, your revenue is just down. And a lot of the revenues, they have no control over. So that was
Well,
what the
it's like the
problem
sheriff's
was.
department. He couldn't cut his budget much, but last year they had potential of earning 500,000 for the out of county, letting them use the facilities or taking the prisoners, and they couldn't do it during COVID. So that cut their
Mhm.
budget.
Right.
But this year it could be an additional 500,000, but they can't really claim it,
Yeah, and it all goes into the general fund. But yeah, I did that once, but I'd be happy to provide that information to you if you want to see it.
I don't know. I don't want to confuse everything. Let's leave it for right now, maybe later.
Well, if I can just give you a report, if you want me just to run a report, I can do that.
Okay.
It's just similar to this, but shows the
Just have
revenue
another
line
column,
items.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. Let me make a note of that so I remember to do it.
It's confusing for a simple minds, but if you want to, it helps you, that's awesome.
That was, yeah, because I agreed with you, Mary, when I
Every
first
time
started.
I
I'm
go
like, this
down
is a
through
little
there, I
bit,
look at one and I see, it's like the.
right.
I'm with you. I
It's
agree.
like the airport. I mean, he cut that 300,000. He's only asking 200 some thousand from the county, but we already had a prior commitment to pay 700 and some thousand on the terminal project. So that's what threw that one way over the top.
No, I agree.
But if you don't know that, it looks all
Mhm.
skewed.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Very good. Okay.
And on land use, if you add in the economic development, it's about 19.5% decrease. So about almost.
Well, Eric cheated. He got rid of Mark, so that doesn't really count. Eric cheated. He got rid of Mark. But I'm not doing a very good job of filling his shoes, but we're trying.
Okay. Go ahead.
So no? Okay. Purchasing is next. Purchasing is down 4.3%. That's a decrease of $19,468.
She's my liaison. I don't really see, and it was pretty bare bones budget, I thought.
Would you double check in these capital expenses to make sure there's not laptops in there? So that, because if there are, then we'll pull them.
Okay,
They're already built in under Tim's.
okay.
And I don't know, I just saw the 1,500. I'm like, yeah, that's a cost that could be potentially be a laptop cost, but
It is for miscellaneous hand tools, hand carts, used in warehouse.
It could be cell phones too, or do they go under IT?
no.
It could be cell phone. I mean, people could include cell phones in
Yeah.
there.
But they're not part of IT.
They're not part of IT, no.
So they come under purchasing, okay. And I didn't charge the county for a new cell phone. I took the old one from Jean's department.
Okay, so no for purchasing? Okay. Road and bridge, that one decreased 7.67%, 352,300, and that's under Gene. Okay. Veteran services, this is a decrease of 5%, a decrease of $14,332.
Although with this one, it's quite a substantial amount of money paid back to the county
That's true.
for those.
Services in other counties, yes.
Yeah, I would love to see that. And this is also a potential duplicate service. I know we do an incredible job, but the state also is paying for it in other counties. and
Right.
I'd love to look at that as a whole too.
Like, Mr. Chairman, mind if I make a comment on that? Yeah, I actually met with Gary about that yesterday too, specifically to get a better understanding of that, of how the other counties do it. We kind of do our own thing with Lincoln, Sublet, and now Uena. and fund it ourselves, and they do help fund part of it, but the state does have a number of people, like, I can't remember the exact number, that travel the state to do the VSO. Yeah. And I would agree with,
Commissioner Lloyd, go ahead, please.
yeah, it's
Let's-
yeah, it is, it is inefficient, and, but I do think having a discussion about it could be, be important, just because we really need to look under every rock and every efficiency we can find. And we may decide it's the best way to keep it, and that's kind of where I lean, but I think having that discussion of that option isn't a bad thing.
Thank you. Commissioner Toman, I didn't hear what you had.
Sorry, I didn't mean
No,
to
that's
interrupt
okay. I
you,
didn't.
Roy.
That's okay. What did,
I just said that, Don Van Meter became the director of this and developed a very efficient system, and then we're billing other counties. And the state now is taking, and Gary can talk to this better than I can, but the state's using this county's model.
yeah, but I think
Theirs is
I
very
think it's a
inefficient.
great model that was put together, and Gary's facilitated that very well. But I think the real question becomes is how come the state is funding it for other counties and not funding it for what we're doing and that type of thing. So I think that's something we need to look at and follow through if we have
Told
some
us about
opportunity.
that once.
Yeah, he did, but I'd like him to tell us again so we all know. Okay.
We're saving money by doing it the way we
Yeah,
do it.
that's what I've been
Remember the
told.
details.
Okay, so we'll get that.
Yeah.
We'll get a story again, but in the meantime, I don't think we need to call him.
Okay. The next one is assessor. Assessor is down 7.26%, $71,034.
Yeah, the next move in there, in operating, talking with Assessor Davis, in there is a contract for industrial assessors and some other things in operations that, he looked at and cut very close. You can see he got rid of his capital. So we're pretty tight until we go into people. Am I right, Dave?
That is correct. This number for payroll will go down just a little bit because our temporary person that we did hire is not going to work the length of time that we had requested. So that dollar amount is going to shrink as well. A lot of the operating is education that's required by Department of Revenue rules. So I cut as much as I could. And I've said this before to this group, if I don't need it, I won't spend it. I mean, it's one of those things where we do the best we can to help contribute to the carryover as well.
Very good. Thank you. So we don't need him
Okay.
unless someone else wants to come back.
I just heard from him. It's great.
Okay.
Next one is attorney. This one is down 8.49%, $236,328.
Capital's all gone.
Although I do like to see Danny squirm a little bit.
What's your thoughts, Commissioner? Do you want attorney good?
Ms. Berry, do we reflect in, as part of our incomes, the money the state gives us to replace our revenues, the county attorney salaries? I know they do like half of the county attorney and then like part of the, I think $30,000 on the other attorneys. Does that go into the revenue portion?
It
The
does.
General revenue? Okay.
It goes into general revenue. I believe it is assigned to
It
county
would make
attorney.
sense because I know what we have for
Believe so.
general revenue is a higher projection than what we thought was coming in. So I imagine some of those revenues, like the jail revenues and stuff,
Mhm.
went into that revenue.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those definitely go in there. I'm pretty sure this one, that attorney one is like allocated to the attorney department, but yes. Yes, that absolutely is
That would
included
be
in the
that
general fund
column
revenue.
of Other income that goes with these then. Like
So
this asked for, it would show up here.
it will go on the report I'm gonna run you. It'll just have a revenue account above each of the departments. And then it'll have the payroll operating capital, and then I'll have a net amount.
And this payroll on the county attorney doesn't reflect the reimbursement from the state for
No,
salary.
no, this is the full amount of the payroll that is reflected here. So the net amount would be smaller than this
Smaller and be
$2.5 million expenditure budget. This is just the expenditures.
very good.
Okay, so no on the attorney. The next one is county clerk. This is a decrease of 9.99%, $121,422.
We've already adjusted that one with the loss of staff, and then we let her replace some. So I don't see what else we could do there. Oh, I was thinking clerk of court. Sorry, I spoke out of turn. But
You can
you
tell.
lost one too, though, right? You lost two,
3.
three? Oh,
Okay, do you need to call in the county clerk for her budget? Nope, okay.
No?
Nope.
All right, the next one is financial management, increase of 0.45%, increase of $797. Me.
That's you, yeah.
Excellent.
Excellent. No. That's a one-person budget, right?
Yes.
Next move in that department is people.
Yep. Or my $900 operating.
You can just borrow it from the commissioners.
No?
Okay.
Okay, the next one is commissioner support. This is a decrease of 0.52%, a decrease of $429.
And that's Sally.
Yes.
Thank you.
No?
Nope.
Next one is elections, a decrease of 64.78%, a decrease of $384,607.
Until next year.
Until next year, that's correct. It'll go back up.
But it looks good for right now.
It looks great right now.
It depends on what the legislature does to you too. No. Okay.
Next one is clerk of district court, a decrease of 12.66%, a decrease of $105,344. I don't think the additional positions are in here yet. I will have to double check that. The positions, when were those approved?
A month ago.
Oh, maybe they are in there. I'm not sure. I don't know. I would have to
Okay.
double check whether those are in there or not.
Bonnie, just as a guess,
Actually, I don't think they are. I think they are. I think they are included in there.
yeah, because we approved 2, but there's still 1 short. If you
Right.
Look at that gap, it
Yeah,
would be probably one
I think you're
employee.
right. I think you are correct.
And they're
think that
kind of a
does include
department,
those.
they're basically a people too. There's nothing else really to cut when I met with them.
That's the one that has child support services though, right?
Yes,
It's in that.
yes.
So that may be something we need to have a discussion around as well, because that's a duplicate service also with the state, right?
Yeah, it is.
what is?
What was?
What was?
Child support services.
Child support
Oh.
services.
Oh, the state could provide that service?
Their
Does
contract.
provide that
does.
service.
Oh, and we
have a
do too.
full-time Position that's covering it. Yeah.
Oh, we do collect revenue from it too. I know that.
We should,
I don't know if it's enough. I can look and see the numbers on that.
yeah, that would be good. And I think that's a good discussion
Mhm.
topic for us to have too.
I know we used to collect a lot of child support services revenue, and I know that number has gone down, but I'm not sure the amount. So I will let you know
Do you want
the service
that
or the
conversation as
revenue
part
for
of the
that.
next budget,
Yeah,
Hearing.
let's talk about that the next budget hearing.
next time you come in? So we'll have the clerk of district court come in
Okay, have her come in?
Yep.
All right.
and specifically to talk to us about the
Child support.
child support as to why we're duplicating services with the state and how we can. Okay.
Okay. All right, the next one is the coroner, down by 0.68%, down $1,950.
I met with him and he said one other time he did reduce his budget and then he had to keep coming for budget amendments because the autopsies.
Right.
Or
He
deaths
did.
or
I remember
whatever.
that year. No, it was the autopsy fees.
So he said
They
he'd
don't
rather-
know.
he'd
They
rather
don't.
just leave it.
Yeah, you can see it fluctuates a little bit year to year. So
Over
fiscal year
3 years now.
19, his operating was 66,000. The next year was 42,000. The next year was 56,000. And then he has budgeted 82,000. But no, I do recall that year. And I had to do 2 budget amendments on 2 separate occasions because he thought he had them all. And then there were more autopsies that he had to do. So that does vary and he has no control over it. So, I mean, we could reduce that and do a budget amendment if he does need more money. I mean, it doesn't seem to be running that high. So far, year to date, it's $56,426. So that number will go up probably. I mean, because we still have a little bit of time left. But it was pretty low
But it doesn't look
the
like
year
any
before.
of them may meet 82,000.
Not the last couple years, no.
Oh.
I think we should cut that back
Well, we can, will we have up-to-date numbers again
Yeah.
later,
At the next workshop?
as well as maybe the following for the final or something? I mean, because if we get closer to it and see those final numbers, we'll do just what you said. We'll reduce it down, but he can come in for budget amendments.
Right.
And when you look at that in particular with the operating, it goes back to my thinking of, in the operating of whether it's departments or elected officials, consistently over time, what is actually spent versus what is budgeted
Right.
for.
They
There's a
can
big
be-
difference. And
there
some of it
is.
is not being. So I want you to look at that one more time. for
At
us.
all of them or
Yeah.
this one?
All of them,
Okay.
like you did. And you remember you highlighted the
Uh-huh.
yellow ones of where you picked up consistencies. And let's have it for the next one. So we
Okay.
can look at it. And that might warrant calling in somebody else that we're not already calling in, but that's fine. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it right.
Okay.
I'd comment on like the coroners or some of those. He really projected because that's what he thinks it's going to be. And we have to consider the time that you're spending doing budget amendments and the time it's taken us. So you have to kind of offset. If it's a bunch of money, but if it's just a few thousand, is it worth it to have them keep coming in here for budget amendments? So I just say, figure that,
Yeah. Well, and that's why we're here. That's our job.
Mhm.
Our job is here. We try to do the right budgets, and sometimes we miss it and sometimes we don't miss it. And if we do, we'll do a budget amendment. And it doesn't, it takes some time to do paperwork, takes some time for somebody to come in, but that's our jobs. And that's what we signed on for. And I'm here for it. So let's move forward.
Okay. So do you want to see the coroner or you just want that updated information?
I just want that updated
Okay.
information. And then if we decide to reduce it down, we'll have a conversation with him and let him know. Okay?
Okay. The next one is the sheriff. This is a decrease of 0.3%, $17,308.36. The capital, I can tell you what that is.
well, the grinder and all that, doesn't he have to pay for that?
No, that comes
Well,
out of Gene's
that
budget.
comes out of,
That kind of, geez.
that comes out of Public
This
Works.
is, I think this is mostly vehicles and previous lease.
So he was looking at trying to get, so if we get up
Oh,
to a
it's not in
certain
this one.
number of vehicles,
Yeah.
so then we can get into a system that it's going to save us a considerable amount of money. But we have to have the vehicles to start with so we can rotate them out and get the income on them when we get new ones.
And that all started last year, and it's going to take 2 or 3 years of the cycle
Yes,
before it
and this
works
is
in our
part of it.
benefit. This is part of it.
Yep.
And we discussed that at Capital, and basically what it will create is every vehicle, because we'll be able to return some of the vehicles, we'll basically get 5 vehicles for the price of 3. Wasn't that right, Tim, from what we discussed at the operating? And I don't think they started that last year because they reduced their budget request upon a request. I think this would be the first year on it, if I remember
Oh,
right.
it's the first year. And he's also, other departments similar to his size, he's less than 100 employees. Others in the state are like at 150, 160 employees. He's cut considerably in that sheriff's department.
So it is all lease payments. It looks like all of them are the previous ones, except the one for this year is $108,486 for the new one. And that's for 5 Tahoes. And then the rest is for previous lease payments.
Tell them to drive them carefully and don't wreck any. Don't leave them parked where they can get hit. I don't care who hates you, law enforcement. They try to run you over, park your vehicle somewhere else.
Okay, I
All
will
right.
pass on the
you.
message.
Do we need to call the sheriff in regarding his sheriff budget?
I would say
Oh,
no.
I would agree.
And then when you get to the detention, it's the same thing. There's so many things
Well,
required by law that you don't have a
It's-
choice.
It's not only required by law, but just to remind the commission, we bought into a model for staffing the detention center that was presented to us, and we made the commitment, prior commission did, of supporting that model, and his detention budget is built around that model. So you're exactly right, Commissioner Toman. If we reduce any part of it with people or anything, we do put ourselves in a positions, so. Detention, do we need to call him in? No, very good.
Okay, the next one is emergency management, and that one is also under the sheriff. It's an increase of 3.37%, an increase of $2,838.
What is the capital for?
Oh, they didn't include it in theirs. I don't know. I would have to look that one up because I just plugged it in.
Will you let us know?
Yes. Or was that one, that one might have already been in there, actually. Let me look. Oh, yeah, it is.
Well, yeah,
It's the funding for the portable corrals, the supplemental for the
Yes,
grant.
yes.
The
That's-
match funding?
Yes,
yes.
Sounds good.
I think because it was supposed to come out this year, but
That operating from management over the past 3 years has been held considerably versus what's been requested. So that might be something to look at too.
okay, so no for emergency management
Yep.
then? Okay,
Do you
animal
want to know, or do you want
control.
them to come in? No, they don't need to. We can look at that.
With this year's, that included the stand-up of our COVID response people, and we got some money back for that. Is that correct?
This was not the COVID response. No. No, that was through a grant, and that was for the EOC. That was separate.
I'm asking the disparity of the 2021, then why is that so much payroll-wise, sorry? Why is the 2020, 2021 actual?
So the 2021, so a lot of that is actually going to get taken out because that is the grant money that hasn't been done yet, I guess. So that's going to be adjusted out. So those positions, or I think one of them, I'm not sure how it works, but we get a lot of grant money for it. So you're looking at the year-to-date actuals. There's going to be a journal entry to move that out. So that number is a little bit deceiving. That's just what's in the system right now. Yeah,
But where's it gonna go, under grants?
to grants, yes.
No discrepancy.
Yeah, okay. No, we don't need.
Okay, the next one is animal control. So this is a decrease of 47.82%, a decrease of $79,982.
Oh, that's under the
Payroll going half, more than half.
I think they had two people and they must have gone to one, it looks like.
the one.
They are covering with the sheriff's deputies.
Nice job. Thanks.
Yep, thanks.
Okay, the next one is treasurer. This one is a decrease of 0.85%, a decrease of $8,226. Oh, sorry, an increase. I apologize.
What's the deal, Rob?
I just want more money.
He's the
Hold
treasurer.
it.
You aren't,
You come
I
in
was
here and
his
tell us we have to
liaison.
cut.
It's pretty easy to look at. It's changes in my staff through the STEM program.
pure payroll and everything, isn't it?
When I went through my budget narrative with Commissioner Coleman, I told her I have 1.5% of my budget that's discretionary. So everything else I have to do if you want me to bill taxes and everything else. Other than that, it comes out.
What are you doing with that 1.5% then? That's
He wants more money.
That's my.
you're 1.6% now, doesn't he?
You notice they gave the new person him.
You're operating? How's your operating?
Operating is all, like I say, it's the tax bills that we have. to
Okay,
do,
very good.
so advertising that we have to do
Okay.
on the sales, things of that nature. That's what all of the operating.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
No,
All right, so if you can see down below the treasurer, there's total for all the departments. So I like this. It kind of shows you a snapshot of where we are. A decrease in payroll of 5.99%, a decrease in operating of 4.84%, and a decrease in capital of 36.01%. So a total overall decrease of 9.41% for the departments.
Gotta add in the
We do.
4,500 that we took out of
Yes.
there, 'cause we're
Yes.
really good work.
That might bump that up just a little bit.
We're out there.
All right, moving on to the next page.
Well, I'd just like to
I'm not
comment that
following along
goes
very
to
well with
show how
this.
well you as commissioners followed through when you were assigned your liaisons for budget, that work you did with those individuals and following through with it. So I'd like to say thank you to you guys for that. Although we aren't done, we'll see how well we do with this group.
All right, the next one is the component units. So for the events complex, they have a department request of $2,494,182. This is a decrease of 10.49%, which is a decrease of $292,426. I did include their capital in there. The capital items they requested, there were 2 of them. Let's see.
There's the water well and the asphalt main.
Yes. Yep, those are the 2
What?
projects.
The what?
The water well for 199,048 and the asphalt maintenance for 114,825.
So we're buying a third well?
No, we have it ranked on our capital sheet. I can't remember where, but it's farther down the list. if I remember
11.
Right.
They come in.
Have them come in?
They
Okay,
come in.
all right,
There's another reason for that.
okay. The next one is the library. The request is $2,743,400. This is a decrease of 10.01%, a decrease of $305,001. They do have a few items on the capital list. However, those items are not included in this amount. They had some fire panel replacements. Anyway, their total capital on this list was only 70,000, but that is not included in this request right here.
By statute, we are expected to fund the library, a library.
Yes.
Keep that in mind. And the library is to be located at the county seat, am I correct?
Correct.
I believe
That's
so.
the statute.
So. My biggest question with the component units and the outside agencies now is why didn't they do what we requested of 20% reduction? As well as looking at capital, especially some of the other ones. That's my,
On this one, this could be my fault, Doc, because when I met with Jason, I met with him early in the process, and it was before I realized we had to ask for 20. I asked Jason to prepare at least 10 to 20, but also keep in his back pocket, when he gave me 10, what 15 and 20 and 25 and 30 would look like.
okay,
So-
either, my suggestion would be from my standpoint, there's 2 ways to handle it. Jason can come in and tell us how he's going to go to 20, or you can visit with him and come back.
I can visit with him.
You want to visit with him
Yep.
first and then come back, see us, hang out from, that's just my thought. We got other commissioners at this table. So, and at some point in time, the conversation, even with these guys, it has to be, next year, another 20 to 30. Even if they are a component unit that we fund, they've got to start reducing and I would hate to open up this can of worms, but that library board may have to make some decisions.
Well, and if we're looking at that kind of change down the road, I could talk to Jason for this year, but I think it might be important with that concept to almost bring in all the component agencies if that's what we're looking at long-term. Just in a general blanket statement.
Well, yeah, and, but when I take a look, I agree with the general statement and see if there's any more they can do, but take a look at Southwest Counseling, Memorial Hospital and those types of ones. We're going to do the contract. We have our contract with Southwest Counseling that we'll do with them. We want to talk with them anyhow at some point in time about that, as well as events complex. So I'm just looking at the 20% plus given the message that next year will be even more for those areas that we aren't mandatorily expected to fund based on statute. Does that make sense?
It does.
It does. I did not tell people 20% because when I specifically brought up a percentage that we needed to cut, I was, in this meeting, it was decided we weren't gonna do percentages, that we were just gonna ask everybody to cut as much as they could. So I never gave a percentage, and I specifically brought that up, like, we talked about percentages, but we realized that there's some people that it's payroll and benefits only.
Yeah.
So, but that, I mean, that was the message I gave to everybody. So if we want 20%, then I can go back and talk to the ones that I have, and make sure that they know that they're gonna need to do more.
Well, and I think your conversation or what you're saying is exactly right. And when mine goes back to it, the 20% as to then would it go into people? And I direct, and I'm looking at it two ways. One, core government, which is statutory obligated people we're paying. Look at those. And then also with outside agencies, they've got to cut.
Yeah.
They've got to. And without a doubt, because we're not statutorily required to fund them, although we want them to have some money.
Right.
And help them, but then for next year, it's going to be more. So I saw it as a two conversations of how we want to deal with core, which is elected department chairs, and then somewhat with the statutory funding and component units and that type of thing, as well as then outside agencies. And I just really, in my mind, and I could be wrong, but I'd rather see them come in this year with 20 rather than be told next year come in with 35 to 40.
Right.
Because that's
Agreed.
what's going to draw.
Yeah.
With the,
Roy, did you have that? I mean, is the library there? Like, are they like, hey, this is all we can do this year, or do you know that?
Will you repeat that, Jeff? I couldn't hear you.
Do you know if the library is like there, is Jason like, hey, this is what we can do this year? And yeah, I know we may get more of a cut next year, just like we did with our other, everybody else that we've done so far. Some of them weren't 20, some of them were increases. So is that like what he could do this year and says, I'll take, we'll do what we can this year?
I think they could do more if needed. I think that's where, at that point, when he's really started looking at cutting into services and people, but I can double check with him and make sure. And I'll just give some positive praise to Jason, because historically, when we go to him, he's always been willing to look at, whatever he needs to do to make it work. So.
you need to sing that praises from all of us to him. This isn't directed at what he does. This is a conversation that's dealing with dollars, not with how hard people are
Right.
working. That's not personal.
Well,
Thank
he
you.
knows that.
So would you like to see the library or no?
Well,
We're gonna let Roy visit.
pardon?
We're gonna let Roy visit.
Yeah, we're going to let Roy visit with him.
Okay, so no,
Possibly.
Possibly. for now.
possibly,
Come here.
maybe.
We'll give that the big maybe.
Okay. The next one is the museum. Their request is 375,000. This is a 6.87% increase, $24,092 increase.
Bring him in.
Okay.
Well, I mean, they asked for an increase and that was
without a
after,
doubt.
and I had a conversation with Director Mead, who I have a lot of respect for, and I've always liked what the museum did. And he was like, do you think I can ask for an increase? I was like, absolutely not. And I wasn't even as budget liaison. And so I do.
Same. And I just sent him a message and said, what is your increase for? And he said that the board insisted that they request 375. Their philosophy is that if we ask for what we received last year, we'll get even less than last year.
Totally wrong philosophy.
Totally wrong.
So.
Well, and they lost one person, then they brought up part-time.
Well, and keep in mind too, what did the county do for the museum and is looking to do for some of the other
Oh, yeah.
component units and outside agencies?
IT stuff.
We're starting to not only IT, but other things. And that means we have to pick up the expenses for doing those things, for the people that are going to bring those things forward. That does not mean that their budget should go up. Their budget should go down.
Well, and I met with Attorney De Leon about 6 to 9 months ago when Bree left with Commissioner Shaenfield, and we were even kind of throwing some ideas out of like, could we even look at putting the museum under the library board, and statutorily, there was some weird ways to make it work. There was some work to it, but our thought was that would save some significant costs because they wouldn't have to have a director that did their payroll because they had the existing structure that could have saved the money through library. So there were some options too.
Okay,
Okay, yes. Okay, moving on to the next one. Southwest Counseling, their request is $590,488. This is a 20% decrease, a decrease of $147,619.
Where's the new contract with them? When are we going to discuss what they're going to provide with that new contract?
Ms. Commissioner, I'll answer that. That MOU is in preparation, and that's why we need to get it done and have our liaisons visit with them and let them know that's coming. So we need to give Mr. De Leon some time to finish that up so we can look at it and see if we agree with it and that type of thing. So that's in the coming, but let's finish it up and let's make sure we agree that that's what we are going to request people to sign and that type of thing. And that will help direct, not so much what their, I mean, this is what we contribute to their budget. We want to know from them, what are the services we're going to get for the money we give them?
Right.
And what are they going to bring forth as showing us that those services are being offered rather than, again, writing a check and it dispersed across the account. So let's give some time to get that put together. I think they've done what Commissioner Smith has asked them to do, to go to 20%. Is that correct, Commissioner? And so I think they've done that, but so the next step with them is bring them in and we'll talk with them when we are ready to present that MOU, but we want them to review it as well.
Is
And
that-
then,
yeah.
and that's got to happen before our budget's set,
Right,
okay?
because that could affect a couple of other budgets. They are billing other entities, the hospital, and, you know, we're getting billed from the hospital and from the jail detention center. So anyway, it's in the MOU.
Yeah, we'll get those worked out based, and that's what Mr. De Leon's working on. Thank you. Okay, so Southwest Counseling, feel good about that, Jeff?
I sure do.
Okay, and then we'll send the message after that, so we won't have to have them come in.
Okay,
There'll be an opportunity to talk with them. Memorial Hospital, that's their maintenance.
yes, this is just their maintenance portion. It's down 26.15%, a decrease of $378,775.
And I remember how that happened. A while back when we were talking about, Rob presented the numbers and he's going to say, hey, here's how it's going to decrease through assessments and that type of thing, I believe. And for some reason, we showed them that based on what the percentage of the mill they were getting from this last year, it would be reduced by that amount, about that amount of money.
Oh, is that where they came up with
Yeah,
that?
So they said, oh, we'll just give that back. We don't need it.
Oh, okay.
But again, too, my feeling is it brings to mind that when we post that, what of the 12 mil goes to the events complex or the hospital, you know how we do that? They see that as an entitlement, that's what they should get.
Mm,
They don't see it as, hey, here's the portion of the 12 mil that you're getting, and here's how it equates, you know, how much of a meal it is. Does that make sense?
mhm. I adjust that every year based
I know
on
you do,
what
but then when
the
you
commission
adjust it,
decides.
they believe that that's their budget amount.
Mm.
You know
No,
what I'm saying?
yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yes, I
I know
do.
what our message is and what our belief is, but I'm telling you, it's a whole different belief because I've listened to it over the couple of years and it didn't really click until this last year as to, hey, wait a minute. This isn't the way it works. So I think the hospital has cut where they have, but I think if we really get down to it and visit with Irene, they would help us out more. But I think, would you agree, Jeff, that they should be on maintenance?
Probably. I mean, they're willing to take the cut now because it is maintenance. They say, yeah, we can do this for a year, 2 years,
Yeah.
maybe 3, but just like anything else, then, you're not taking care of your car. It's going to catch up with you in the end. And cost you more than the maintenance would have. So they were happy to do it now. It's not a problem. Next couple of years, we can do this. It's okay.
Some of that maintenance up there was for some of the that was for the old stuff before they got money from COVID to do those
Yeah. COVID.
replacements. Am I correct?
Um,
Some of it,
probably.
maybe.
She said COVID helped them a lot.
Yeah, they got a lot of money on COVID.
Mhm.
They should be whole. Okay, what about the hospital? Do you need them to come in or are we good to go?
I don't know. I've had many conversations with them, but if anybody else would like.
No, I don't need to talk to them.
Cut 26%. So I think that they're an entity, like you said, if we get to the bottom line and we cut everywhere else, we can go to.
Yeah.
But I don't think we need to bring this.
But then we'll go back and point of the mill levy anymore. But we'll talk about it. Just my thought. All right, no for the hospital then.
Okay, the next one is the Board of Health. They have a 2.74% decrease. That's 18,500.
COVID is over, right? No.
They had a lot of additional expenses this year, but they should have recouped a lot from COVID.
They did. They got a lot of, they did have a lot of additional expenses this year. And then they also did get a lot of additional revenue that they weren't anticipating through grants to cover those additional expenses.
They also, in talking with Kim regarding this and this amount, was they have had a lot of expenses that aren't going to go away in the near future. So while the money will go away, the expenses won't with COVID and the things, unless they get other grants and there's, like you say, the federal government's doing a great job of just handing out the money. So maybe they are. But she said, if we don't get any more money, which they don't have any reason to believe they would right now, this is what they would need to do to cover it. So that's why it's a modest decrease. But I'm sure Kim would be happy to come tell you that too.
What's the commission think?
I think that just the percentage decrease warrants her coming in to explain, just because we're asking that of everybody else. Yeah, and
Okay. All right, moving on. So outside agencies, the first one we have is Big Brothers Big Sisters. They requested $12,000. It's an increase of 5.26%, an increase of $600.
I met with those. That one is the most disturbing one that I met with because they are only serving 7. I think it's a good program that kids need it, but it's run out of Cheyenne and they're trying to save expenses on accountants and that kind of services. And they have 2 part-time people working on it. I mean, I don't like to down the program, but if there'd be one, it's just frustrating. They don't have the right people trained to be able to do the job is what I feel, but I don't know what the problem is. I think they should be able to serve more than 7 kids, and their budget is not 12,000. It's more like 60 some they're getting from others. I asked her to resubmit a budget of 15% decrease and they didn't. I told her, I said, you've got to at least do 15 or get nothing.
Okay.
If nothing else, these are the funding.
These are the chopping blocks.
These funding agencies be put on notice, not only 20 this year. Until I look at the next one now, the second one, but I'm going like that. But anyhow, these are the ones that got to come in and understand, we can help out the best we can, but we have to stop. And they're going to say they can't, they're going to say whatever reason is that they can't. We've got to be willing to understand that if you don't take it here, then we have to go back and take it out of either the treasurers, the assessors, clerk of court, and now we're talking to. So I think they come in
Aye.
and 20%. Sorry about the baseline after that, but then next year it'll be possibly 20 to 30%. You know, see where we end up. We're not even here.
Well, and I think when we start looking at numbers, Doc, we might even have to say, they may have to go bigger than 20%. And the next year they may be zero. And it stinks because they're a good program. But like Mary said, they serve 7 families. And we have to look at what the most important thing to fund core government is.
Okay. Okay. The next one is the Boys and Girls Club. They have a decrease of 13.36%, a decrease of $6,170.
Bring him in.
Okay.
Did somebody visit with him?
I did, but I didn't give him 20%, but I can go back to him.
You want to bring them in or go back to them?
Let me go back to him.
But-
Again, too, the reason they might want to come in is because we want to be fair with all of them. What's ahead down the road.
How about I talk to him and then I can let Bonnie know?
Okay.
That way I know if they can or if they can't and they need to come explain why.
And I'm going to be honest, I think to get to even $5 to $7 million in cuts eventually, even if we use some of our reserves, some of these organizations are going to have to take more than 20%. I mean, that's just to get to the numbers.
Good call, Doc. Nice save. I don't usually do that. So I don't usually do that. So good. I don't usually stop. Good job using your filter.
That was good self-control.
That was really
Telling you what. Give me the Band-Aid.
Well, I think there was some confusion though, because I think I asked my people 15%, because I thought that was our last message, kind of. So,
I had 20. But
I went mine as 20 to 30.
oh,
You know, some of them went 30, some of them went a lot more. But that doesn't matter. What matters is we got to cut the rest.
some of mine went 50% increase, like the next one. Apparently I wasn't very clear.
That's a different issue.
Okay, Boys and Girls Club. Did we decide what we were doing? Okay, so that's
I'll talk to you.
That's the maybe one. Okay. All right. Castle Rock Hospital District, that is an increase of 50.86%, $177,000.
If you look at their budget request, it's pretty convoluted.
Oh,
too.
yes,
It's like, it says, we will only need this much if we
Right.
get so many hospital transports, and we only need this much if we get a quarter of the transports. And then it breaks it down to like 3 or 4 scenarios where there is a lesser amount, but it all bases upon those things. And there's like, I think there's like 3 proposals in there is what it is.
What do you got?
well, my
Yes,
con-
thank you for reminding me of that because on the,
It's the weirdest one.
yes,
My
Mary.
concern with that one is too, they are a special district. They have their own taxing ability.
Yes.
But the taxing ability is for health services, not ambulance services.
Is this in the ambulance, does this include their ambulance business too, this
They do
request?
use.
This request is just for the
Oh,
ambulance.
it is just the ambulance, okay,
Yes.
okay.
Bonnie, they have a verbal agreement with the hospital. We had a call, a Zoom. They are going to take over the ground transports. So what, did they have that proposal in there?
But here,
So 100% of them or
100% in September, I think.
starting in September? Because their proposals are, proposal 1 was 50% of all airport and long distance transfers. They said that their budget request for that would be 325,000. Their proposal for number 2 was no transfers, which was 525,000. Which that's the one I included in here because I was assuming that they didn't do any transfers right now, just from listening to previous meetings, it sounded like they weren't doing any. So I put that one in there. It seems like there was another one.
This is good.
They've changed it.
Anyway, we need Bailey to come visit.
We
with
needed
us.
Bailey to come in and just to share with the commissioners. Also, if you take a look at Sweetwater Medics, they kept their numbers the same based on per call at 931, 584, which is same as last year. They didn't ask for an increase this year.
Right, but Castle Rock didn't ask for as much of an increase last year.
No, but they did based on equal calls worked out to that much. And then you're right, they didn't ask for that increase. You're exactly right last year.
Mhm.
So if my feeling is the per call was the gain prior to that, but had nothing to do with the rest of this. So I think Bailey's got to come in and talk with us.
Okay. All right, so that one's a yes. The next one is Climb Wyoming. Their request is 3,500. That's a decrease of 30%, a $1,500 decrease.
I'm good with it.
Okay. The next one is family planning. Their request is $16,000. They didn't have a request the prior year. They had switched directors, so they missed the budget last year. So $16,000 increase.
Was that Resource Center?
No, that's family planning.
And I reminded her that we would be looking at a 25 to 30% in revenue. Down in revenue, and she is aware of it, so I think she needs to be brought in and if, to notify that there's even though it's new over last year, it's a carryover from the year before, we would have the option to say no entirely, or it's basically a new request.
How did they survive a full year without our funding and now they're coming back?
That's,
for it?
mhm.
It's a pretty small portion of their budget, the 16,000.
I s-
Then why do we have to fund them now?
Well, we don't. Here's the thing. We call them in. That'll give us time to review their entire budget requests and how much they have in carryover and that type of thing. And we'll see. Maybe they don't need it because their carryover is so strong.
Okay.
All right, so bring them in, yes.
Okay, the next one is Family Resource Center. Their request is 42,000. It's a decrease of 23.77%, a decrease of 13,100.
No, we don't need those in. Well, we got to give them the message for next year.
We do.
Yeah, so just, we can bring her in just so she can hear the same message everybody else is hearing. So we don't have to ask for more. We could ask if she has more, but I think she needs the message the same as the others.
Should we maybe have a time that we ask just before we even hear everybody to hop on and have the conversation, the same message to everybody at the same time?
That would work.
Because then we don't have to bring, I mean, if we bring one person in, we're gonna have to bring everybody in. And I don't know if we necessarily have to have them come in. I mean, they can call in and get the same message.
Yeah.
And then the ones that we actually need to talk to about their budget, we can bring in. I just don't want to.
Well, I think we need to give the same message to everybody, and I don't care how we do that, whether we bring them in individually as we want those to come in, or if we do it beforehand and then tell those that don't have an appointment with us goodbye, and then we move forward. So
I think that'd be the
let's plan before the
Okay.
next meeting.
Do you want to just have it at the next budget workshop, just at the beginning, invite everyone to join in on Zoom?
It might be best for all our funding agencies to be aboard. We have the opportunity with electeds and department chairs, but they could hear the same message. Rob, would you want to hear it after hearing it 100 times? One more time?
Well, no, I don't, Mr. Chairman, but I think it's very important.
Okay. Let's do it before our next budget meeting, Zoom to everybody.
So we'll just
That-
have it as part of the budget
Part of the
workshop. We'll
meeting
just
at the
have it
very-
right at the beginning and
Yeah.
have people join.
And you'll have that scripted so you can tell people, Bonnie?
As long as you want to write the script for me. Well, tell me what you want me to tell them. I'd be happy to.
Never ask you to do, Commissioner.
Well, I just need a consensus because I hear different things and I try to read minds
I
and
know you do.
I never know what to say because my mind reading skills have not been
Let's-
perfected.
Let's do this is, we'll do a message before the next
Okay.
one for everybody, and it's basically about where it's headed.
Okay,
And then for those that we don't need to bring in for like climb and what was family resources, we just tell them, have a good day.
okay,
Okay, so family resources, no.
okay. All right, the next one is Food Bank. Their request is $20,738. This is a 10% increase, an increase of $1,885.25. And this one, just to remind you, goes to fund the director's health insurance.
And that's all we pay, right?
That's all we pay, yes. And actually, we don't even give them money. It just gets credited. So it's actually not even money dispersed, but that's why there's an increase. Last year, the budgeted amount wasn't enough to cover the full amount.
I'm okay.
I'm okay with that.
Think we need to bring them in because is one of our responsibilities, if we're trying to protect core government, is to pay the director's salary of food bank. I don't think that's a statutory obligation. I'm going to be honest. I don't think cutting 20% from all these outside agencies this year will get us to where we need to be to even use reserves to get even. I think we're too small, but that's just one man's opinion. I mean, I think what the food bank does amazing, and I think Kathy Seiler is an amazing person. But if we want to talk about statutory requirements, is paying that salary benefit something we have to do, or is it going to be something that makes us cut farther into core government? That's my concern.
That's legit. I would say that would be one of the last things we want to cut, but yeah, you know, I mean, she's just gonna, I talked with her and that's exactly what Bonnie says is correct. So it's either, you know, that is cutting benefits from a person and are we there yet? Is that what we're doing?
Well, I think
that's,
yeah.
you know, that's okay. I just don't know if that's what we're doing. how about we put a question mark by that, or we can have her come in if you want. But I think she's just going to tell you that's all you're paying. If you want to cut my insurance, cut my insurance. It's not like, oh, I don't need that computer or I don't need that.
No, it's going to be just her health insurance. So the
That's all it
question
is.
becomes, like any other outside agency, is that something we want to continue to fund? I mean, it was generous at the time when it was offered to help make the food bank go. Okay, I get it, but times are different, you know, and that type of thing. And so that's the only thing I can say about it is, you know, what Jeff's saying is it's one of those things that at some point in time,
And sorry, but
no, at some point in time, do we make a motion that, hey, funding's done?
and that'll be the same with the youth home, the same conversation where it's just going to, any cut would be directly affecting, it will not allow them to have one youth there for 1 month, every $4,000 we cut. So, you know, if that's what we want to do, I mean, that's the choices we need to make, but those are two that I talked to. And so it's, you know, are we there? Do we want to do that? I guess or do we carry on, put a question mark by it, see where we're at, see what we want to do with reserves?
Maybe we don't have to bring them in, but we just have to keep that in the back of our mind that we may have to make that cut.
Yeah.
The nice thing is it's straight. We know what it's for and we don't have to negotiate that down and we'll just know if we need to make that cut to get there or not.
Well, yeah, I agree. The other piece to keep in mind too, that as we move forward is we need to check and see what these people's reserves are, carryover. Because some of them have pretty good carryovers that they could reduce,
Yeah.
that they could reduce by operating, just like we're reducing our reserves to carry on funding organizations that may have pretty good reserves that they could spend their own reserves rather than our money. So those are some things we need to look at as we move forward, is, hey, what the reserves are and that type of thing. And they don't want to spend them, and I get it. I wouldn't either. And as long as the county keep handing money out to me, I'm not going to spend them.
But I think the hard thing in this whole situation is every one of these organizations do amazing work. But when you look at the struggle becomes, you know, right now we're looking at a budget of really $34 million. We bring in a couple extra for revenue. So let's say 36. We don't see that changing significantly over the next couple of years, but it costs $33.6 million to operate core government. And that was even with 10% cuts across from everyone. unfortunately, there's a lot of these agencies that may eventually in the next couple of years not be able to be funded, no matter how great they are. And it kills me to say that out loud. I'm a guy that ran nonprofits for 23 years. But I mean, we may, to eventually get to that balanced budget that Doc's talking about, we may not have a choice to get that ugly and deep. And it's horrible. I mean, I don't sleep at night thinking about it. But I don't know and if we use higher levels of reserves in 2 or 3 years, we wouldn't be able to bail anyone out at the level. So I think those are that big picture look we have to also look.
So do we want to do we want to have her come in, or do we just want to?
I say we don't need her to come in because we know what we have to do if, depending on where the budget's at.
I put a mark next to it on mine, so it's, if we get to that ugly part.
Yeah,
frowny face
that's
on
what
it.
I did too.
Yeah, for the
Frowny
food
face
bank, I
next to it,
agree.
so-
I agree. So, okay.
Okay.
Sucks.
The next one is hospice. Their request is 66,500. It's a decrease of 6.67%, a decrease of $4,750.
Did somebody visit with them? Did anybody visit with them? Or why they
It wasn't me.
didn't go to more?
I'm on their list. I better check mine.
Better check mine too.
Me too.
I caught one late in the game when I checked mine. I was like, oh, I hadn't talked to
It's
that
fine for a
person.
while.
Well, I did have the next one, Respicare, and they probably could have gone together because she said she could cut 15%. If they cut any more, they would lose home health care nurses. But she said if it got any worse, that hospice would have to pick up what they do. They really are basically home health care for people who have no money to provide it.
Yeah, and those services are being duplicated through the home.
It's not on there.
No, it's not on the liaison list. It would be on the budget liaisons that Sally sent all of us.
Oh, I thought it had.
And I, you had the regular liaisons.
Oh, I got both.
Each of us got one.
Let me look.
And I agree with what you're saying, Commissioner Toman, because all the commissioners are saying the same thing, but
Is it really?
See you.
Oh my
who
God.
is it?
I did not talk to them.
It's Lauren.
Sorry, failure.
I'm just glad it wasn't me.
But going back to what I was going to say, that everybody's going to have a story. And it's going to be a good one, and it's going to be one that's going to bring tears to our eyes, but, I'm sorry. And I guess we do have that option to spend all the reserves and not even
I
deal
won't
with
go
it.
for that option.
All the way down to 25 million, no more. We can do that this year.
We could spend it down to 15 million.
If we wanted to, we could.
But then we delay the tough decisions till next year and we cry again.
Well, in other words, all we're doing is a Band-Aid fix, people.
I won't get reelected, so it's okay.
Well, we're not having those conversations at this table about elections. It's illegal.
Yeah.
No
I've already been
campaigning at the
accused of that
tables.
today.
No campaign at the tables, please.
Let Mary take care of it.
So anyhow, with that, I'm sorry. People just got to do what we ask them to do and find additional funding from somewhere else. That's, unless you guys feel differently. I've said enough. Hospice, they got to come in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
And with-
VARS.
And we'll take that as from a standpoint, please, that someone didn't get the chance to talk to them.
Me.
That's okay. It
Sorry.
doesn't matter. This happens. But we'll just talk with them, ask them to do a 20% cut. Yeah, and let them know, hear the same message. Well, they all hear it now. Okay, go ahead.
VIRS, they are requesting $88,825. It's a 15% decrease, $15,675 decrease.
Oh,
I talked to them. She said to go any further would be cutting people, but if we really got totally cut next year, they would could be picked up under hospice.
I think they, like everybody else, needs to go to 20%. So let's bring them in.
Youth home, a request of $154,670. It's an increase of 50 cents.
I have a little notation from last year. What's their carryover? I haven't asked this for anybody else, but for some reason, that one sticks in my mind as
Yeah.
huge. I could be wrong. I hope I am.
There were a couple that I remember
I
and
have it
I'm
pulled
the one
up.
that talked with them, and I don't have in my notes, there's carryover.
If I would go into their budget requests and their last page, I would find it, but I didn't have time today, Bonnie. I'm sorry.
I have it pulled up.
What's their carryover? How many days cash carryover?
I'm looking.
Says 3.83.
3.83
they-
days?
That's what it says, but a lot of times they don't do these correctly. Yeah, this doesn't add up.
Doesn't.
Cash on bank statements, 331 was 501. but that's-
501, yeah.
But I don't think that's their cash carryover. That's their current flow chart.
That would have just been how much cash they had as of the end of March.
I did find it. Operating cash flow, 6/30/20, 103, 725, 88. Days of cash on hand was 37.43 as of 6/30/20. I think we need a more updated information on that.
Not since last June.
Yeah.
You know, when people,
Their expenditures so their expenditures budgeted for, oh, this doesn't even make sense.
who else
Um,
assists with their funding?
The state,
expenditures.
which they are now getting 0 this year.
Yeah. So the state feels that program isn't real important.
State pays for 79% of their actual costs.
Okay.
So their actual budget, their actual expenditures in fiscal year 20 were 883,445. Their actual year to date as of March 31st was 792,000. And they're showing, I'm a little confused on this because their county funds plus other funds does not equal their combined budget. But even if you go with $1 million, they've got 500,000 in the bank. So I mean, that would leave them with a year of.
That's what I
cash
mean.
on
They got a
hand.
hefty carryover. We would actually not have to fund them at all for a year or 2 years.
Well, we do give them a lot of money though, so they
Oh,
have
yeah.
a
We give them
pretty significant
154,000.
budget from us. What are their other revenues? Their total revenues are 973,000 is what they're budgeting, and 154,000 is from us.
That's a request now
Yes,
with no cuts.
right, that's correct.
And they would have to go into people is what I'm hearing.
Not people necessarily, they would.
Replacements.
What they would do is, for every $4,230 reduction would mean one kid in there for a month. And so that would be a kid who perhaps parents
What-
have
what-
removed from the home, they'd have to go to Evanston or some other place to be the
Mhm.
protective services.
What did they do when the state cut their money?
They just did it this year.
So what are they going to do with those kids?
Well, what the state has done is they've gone by they're guaranteed 6 beds there, so they're paying for 6 beds, but they've reduced the amount that they're paying for those 6 beds.
Okay.
So instead of being able to charge them, this is how many beds we had this month of states, and you'll pay us for it. Now they're saying we're going to pay for 6 beds all month long, but we're only going to pay this fixed amount, which is much less than it was previously.
Which in turn amounted to the state reducing funding to them.
Correct.
So if the state can reduce funding, why can't we?
We can.
We can. I thought,
About 20% of the budget comes from us.
yeah. I don't think they're oblivious to everybody else because 20% here, either here or out of this or it comes out of other budgets. So I think they need to come in and they need to understand and they need to hear the message that there's an expectation of 20% cut. There's going to be some crying, there's going to be some wailing, but we're not going to get anywhere near to where we need to be though.
Doc is tough.
It is, I know it is, but
They're gonna have FFA kids out here soon with their sheep and stuff.
I fully expect that. But if those FFA sheep are that important, at what point in time do we as parents pick up the responsibility for our kids' activities? That would be a shame, wouldn't it? All right, let's go on.
All right, next one, YWCA, their request is $238,452. It's a decrease of 15%, a decrease of $42,079.20.
Okay, I met with them and I met with Respicare and I told them 15 to 20 and they did 15, but I can call those two back and tell them we have to have 20.
If you want to, you can. If they go to 20, then all they need to do is listen to the beginning message.
Okay, I'll call them and see what I can do. I'll let
Yeah.
you know.
Okay, so do you want me to take off
I would put a
VIRS
question mark
too?
for 'em, Adam, and let
Put
Commissioner
my
Tome.
name by them, yeah.
Okay.
Commissioner Tolman will get to you.
Do you want me to do hospice while I'm already in the building? They're right next to
If you want to.
Respicare.
Because, yeah, well, yeah, Lauren.
Or I can call them.
So whatever you two decide, but we need it covered. Okay, where were we at?
Okay, we were talking about YWCA, but Commissioner Tillman will call them. So
Okay,
I just put Mary's name by her,
Yeah,
so.
stick my name on it.
Okay, so I will get with you. Golden Hour Senior Center, they are requesting $196,335. That's a 10% decrease, $21,815.
We requested 20.
They weren't, I met with them and I did, like I said, I didn't give them 20, so I'll reach back out to them.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
So do you want, no, you don't want to meet with them and you'll just let them know, or?
Yeah, let me visit with him and I'll
Okay.
let you know. And I just reached out to the museum and he said that he'll work on getting it down to 20%.
Good.
So.
Good.
When you talk with Rochelle, could you also ask, I was just a little disappointed and I don't know all of the surroundings, but when we had that money, the grant money, and they withdrew their grant request, saying they didn't really need it, but then 2 weeks later, I get a thing in the mail saying, hey, just donate
That's
$12.
Golden
Young at heart,
Hour.
Oh, Golden Hour, you're right. Oh, this is it.
It was Young at
Oh,
Heart
it's
that-
Young at Heart, right. Okay.
Yeah.
My bad. Who had Young at Heart?
Hopefully not me. Because
Okay.
Talk to them. I didn't-
Next month, or next up is Young at Heart. They have a 20.1% decrease, a decrease to $56,536.80.
They probably only need to listen to the message. Commissioners agree?
Okay. The next one is Conservation District. Their request is down 15.86%, a decrease of $43,850.
We still need to ask.
Contact them. When Mary was actually their budget liaison, but I met with Mary with them.
Oh, yeah.
You were the budget liaison. I was just the liaison.
Oh, shoot.
And we did tell them that we thought they'd have to possibly go more than 15 and to put 20, 25, 30% in their pockets. So a plan. So I can call and talk to Karen about cutting another 5%.
Okay.
All right. The next one is the Cooperative Extension 4-H. That's the University of Wyoming. Their request is $102,320.88. It's a decrease of 7.63%, a decrease of $8,448.02.
Okay, I did that one, but De Leon, Mr. De Leon, that's the one we have a contract with. We have to pay, what, half of her salary and the secretary's salary? We have an MOU or something with the university.
Yeah, there is an MOU that you can modify when you deem appropriate.
So we can ask them for the cuts and then modify the MOU.
Yeah. I think that's a contract. We started looking back about 4 months ago when Marty was looking at more space. And I think there's a lot of, I think we could really look at that contract because there's a lot. I mean, if you look at that contract, it says we even have to give them county cars to drive for transportation. But the problem is they can't even drive our county cars because they're not under our insurance. So I think there's a lot in that contract we can look at.
That contract runs out next year.
22.
Next year, so,
She said they couldn't cut anymore this year. I mean, she didn't
well,
feel like she could cut anymore,
but you know what? That's what everybody else is saying.
Well, you want me to tell her? I'm
Yeah,
already over
they
there.
they come in and talk with us or, yeah, just tell them, tell them we got to have it because, and there's a budget message coming and they're not exempt. Unless they can show me under the
I'll
statutes.
talk to him.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Eden Valley Improvement District, their request is $25,000. It's a decrease of 19.03%, a decrease of $5,875.
Yeah, they did what I asked them to do to 20, but I also had a conversation with them as to 20%.
It's 19.03.
Well, we'll get another one out of them easy.
Wrong number in there.
I hear you. That's all it was. But anyhow, this is one of those that has a ample carryover that I talked with him about it. And I said, it'd be nice if you'd consider just not asking, but I stayed with the 20% with the request. They just rounded their number off, but we can reduce it to 20%. They won't say anything. The biggest thing about it is we as a county built them that beautiful building out there. But part of that building, they didn't have enough revenue to keep it lights, electricity and heat and everything on. So that's what we help them with. But they have an ample carryover. They're actually holding our money for us. So I would say we'll cut them 20%, and they know it. We don't even have to call them in, but they need to be on the bus.
Okay, so just change that to 20%
Change it 20%.
and then no.
No, but the message.
Okay. All right, next one is Flaming Gorge Days. Or actually, never mind, they don't have a request. They don't have an event, so I assume that's why they did not submit a request. The rodeo, $8,400 is the request. They didn't have they withdrew their request last year because they did not hold the event. So the request is $8,400. Previously, they received $12,000 in fiscal year 20.
I think we have to see it, but I think we have to question at this point, do we fund the rodeo when we're at such a budget crunch? Do we have the ability to fund rodeos? I mean, it's horrible to say these things. I mean, I sit here and it's sickening, but we have to look at the big picture.
Okay, so yes.
They can make a request, but we can set it wherever we want to because it's basically a new request because they didn't get any money last year, even though you can see the previous years of 12 and the actuals of the year before. So, it's pretty close to the actuals. So, yeah, have them come in so they can talk.
Okay.
about this.
Star, their request is $98,325. That's a 0% change. However, they did drop the year before, and I think I recall them reminding you to remember that.
Yeah, I actually do remember that, and I'm their liaison. And what happened is last year they voluntarily went from 117,990 to 98,325, and I didn't do the math. And we actually told them, hey, we won't hold this against you next year. And so really, I didn't do the math, and I'm not smart enough to have 527 tonight, but it's a significant. And I am a sociology guy, so. But they made a $20,000 cut. So, I mean, it's hard to ask them to do that again. I mean, they did a significant reduction last year. And because they were using their CARES Act money to help carry over those two budgets, is what they did. And-
16.7%.
But if they're,
I did the math too.
I can ask them to go down another 5%.
here's the thing is if you look at 1920, 2021, it's at 98,325. And we're only looking at their actuals. We know the year before or in 2018. Yes, last year they did say we didn't need any more money. We're going to help you out because we have the COVID. So was last year's without the COVID, would that have been 98,325?
It was, but it was significant. They asked for significantly more than that. So I need to probably look at last year's
I
budget
don't-
request.
They asked for significantly more than that. Help me with that, Roy.
I'll have to look.
Why is Rob standing? It's making me nervous.
I just need 1 second, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
I've got a doctor's appointment in Rock Springs at 6.
Good.
I
Okay.
just wanted, if I can interrupt for
Yep.
just a second. I just wanted to go back. When I did the last budget workshop for the commissioners, you had talked about, Commissioner Lloyd was talking about how much you want to expand from reserves. And in that last workshop that we did, the number that I had that we were short was actually about $13.5 million at that point in time. I was anticipating a carryover of about $1.5 million. Monty has said she's looking at $500,000 now. That pretty well offsets where we are with respect to the budget at this point in time. And the number that we were talking about to get to that $25 million number you had set was the advice that I gave was that we would that we'd use about $6.5 million of reserves and then look at what was going on for next year. Just wanted to remind you of that and let you know. That was just my opinion of that.
That 6.5 is very key because that does answer what Roy was talking about.
And once again, that was just my advice, trying to get, once again, when we set that $25 million, that, and knowing that we would, once again, next year have to review this and probably make some more additional cuts to get them to that point in time. That was the number we had talked about. So,
And I had that as a question for you before, when we got done, but thank you.
yeah, and if is there anything else? I'm sorry, I need to.
No, that's okay. That's fine.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The magic 8 ball said.
So I guess where I'm at, Commissioner Lloyd, I'm struggling with doing the math as well.
And I can't, and I need to look up last
Now,
year's.
I think what's key is what did they request from us last year before they took their cut? When they came back and said, hey, we don't need it because we have COVID money. So what was that dollar amount prior?
There's two, I got, okay.
Do you want me to look it up?
I got two,
Yeah,
I
if you
just
got
pulled
it
up
there.
2019-20 budget requests.
Well, I got the 1920 actuals of 98,325.
That,
Yeah.
but that's what,
But-
that would have been after we cut them though.
Oh, that was
Well, oh,
Yeah.
are you looking at 20 or 21?
1920 I'm looking
Yeah,
at.
1920. No, we need to see, no, we need to see 2021, huh?
Seeing their actuals for 2021 were 98,325 as well.
Request for this year's budget.
Okay.
I fully support that they shouldn't be penalized for the money they gave back to us, but we should look at that full budget request and then request a 20% from it. Not just ignore the cut. I should call my,
There it is.
I'm sure somebody would call you if your house was on fire.
Their request was $131,100.
okay, so they're considerably down to that 98. That's more than 20%. Is that correct?
You survived.
Yes, that is more than 20%, but that is off of their request, not their,
Yeah, the request, so their
Actual.
request is 98,325, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that's less than when we fully funded them
Yeah.
at the time they took their cut. So anyhow, point being, it looks like they took a 25% cut based on those two figures from what I'm hearing to get to the 98. So they're well within the 20, so they would not have to come in. Do you agree, Roy?
Yes.
Okay,
No?
all right, no for Star.
Okay.
Okay, treatment court. Their request is $5,500. That's a 17.29% decrease, a decrease of $1,150.
I met with them and the 17% actually just took them down to $5,500, which was for basically their electronic monitoring. The funny thing is they actually asked for increases to the city of Rock Springs and the city of Green River, and we're the only entity they asked for the decrease. I could go back to her and ask to cut for another 3 to 4% to get to 20.
So no on that one?
Or pending question mark, Roy. type
Okay,
thing.
Roy. All right, the next one is Carbon County Fire District. We have a agreement with them, a mutual aid agreement with them. So that one is not something that they request. So I was going to leave that one alone. Guardian ad litem, this is a number that I actually put in there. This is what we pay for all of the guardian ad litem fees that we are required to pay for by state statute. Do we get them back? No. No, this is something we pay for. So the local attorneys, if they're part of the guardian ad litem program, they bill the state and the state bills us, and we only have to pay a portion of that. So the state gives us a discount for that. So part of this money goes to the state to pay for it for the attorneys that work through the guardian ad litem program through the state. And then some of them are just paid, they bill the county directly, and that doesn't go through the guardian ad litem program. So that's just an amount we have to pay for guardian ad litem. It's statute that we have to pay for those. Yes, and I actually did a budget amendment for this at the previous meeting. But the reason that was so high is because the state actually billed us for 2 full years. We missed a year. So I did my best guess to estimate that. I mean, we can always lower it. And if I need to, we could do a budget amendment, but that's why you're seeing that that 2020 is so low, is because the state didn't bill us that year for that. That's why it's only $101,000. That'd be nice. Okay, the next one is the public defender. I put in this one as well, 167,000. I did a budget amendment for this one also, because this was a little bit higher than what it normally was. We just get a bill from the state for this one, and we just pay it. It is statutory, and it's based on crime rate, population, a couple different statistics. So I put in 167 because this last year we paid 166,614 for it. So hopefully that'll cover it this year. The next one is the Sweetwater County Combined Communications Joint Powers Board. Their request was $710,689.74. That is an increase of 0.33%, $2,323.08.
Has us where they basically can request anything. We did challenge it at one time and got beat up in the courtroom and had to reimburse some money. The county did pay whatever they were requesting. So I don't know. Roy, are you
I'm that guy.
you're the liaison? Have there been any conversations from those guys about? Are they?
Yeah, we have, and I know that I know the city of Rock Springs has had also conversations with them, and they hold fast that that's what they need at this point.
Okay. All righty. So
Now, my question though on that, Doc, would be, since it is a joint powers agreement and we're responsible for X amount and Rock Springs and Green River are responsible for X amount, what would happen if we all came back and said, hey, you know what? We all want to make cuts and this is where we want to go. What controls would we have on that if we all agreed to those cuts toward the joint powers? I know we could end up in court again, but it's something I was wondering about.
same thing, Joint Water Power Board, thank God yourself.
Mhm.
As well as same thing with the airport. The way the agreements are written is basically, if you cut them, they're going to take you to court and you're going to end up paying it. So even if all three entities do it, there's a clause in the contract that there's a way for us to opt out or any one of the cities, but at this point in time, that's probably not a good idea. There's also a conversation of looking at that contract to take a look at who controls the checkbook. But I'm going to share with you that talking with the two mayors, it goes deeper than that with them and that type of thing. So answer your question, Commissioner Lloyd, I think we all three would be in court and all three of us would lose it. And as in the last case, the only one that gets rich out of that is the attorneys, not ours, but the attorney that represents the joint communications, because he'll build joint communications and they'll turn around and include it in their budget next year. So we end up paying for it. So the only one that's going to make money on this. I think what's more important is we're going to have to take a hard look at, as three entities, to look at how we're funding joint communications and a few other things and that type of thing. So I think there's some more conversations to be had about that. But my experience, which is very little and doesn't go very far, but they hung it to us. That's all I'm going to say. Last time we cut them.
Okay,
We were
so-
forced to give in.
No.
Well, the communications, technically, they have a full backup system at the sheriff's department, but
Well, they have that all back up, but this is more, they got the backup system is more or less required for whatever reasons they are. But this is their operations. This is everything about them and their people. So it goes beyond just the systems. It goes beyond the operating, the employees and that type of thing. And plus, if you go back and look at the original intent of the communications, when we joined together, the county and the two cities, there was a belief that whoever the director was of the communications center, would work to reduce and make I'll just say answering 911 communications more efficient. It's observation by several leaders that that hasn't taken place. Didn't happen under the last director. It didn't happen when they consolidated. And there's been requests to happen under the present director. And there's not much movement. I do know that the entities want to talk about what the cost share is. I know the director, I've been told the director tells these two cities that Sweetwater County gets a heck of a deal on the costs, and that may be it. But I think at some point in time, there'll be a conversation of, hey, how can we better cost share this out? But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. And we got to take a look at the operations, and we got to look at how can we fund this without it impacting our general funds, whether including both cities and the counties. Okay? So I threw a lot at you in a short amount of time, and maybe it was more than I should have said.
Well, and I think this is a time that we can really look at that contract and the agreement, make sure that they're doing what they say they're supposed to be doing. And I mean, I haven't looked at the contract.
No.
I'd love to see it, but that's one of those things that we need to double check and make sure that we're
Yeah.
all getting the money that we're paying for.
Well, and I think the key to it is if they would operate it from the standpoint of what it was originally intended, to where everybody cross-trained to take calls from across the county, whether you know the whole county, where it stands now. Certain calls for Green River goes to these, certain calls for Rock Springs, certain calls for the county. And those people are not fully trained to take calls all the way across like they are. I'll say they do that in Laramie County. And once you observe the Laramie County Communications Center versus ours, you'll see those people working across the entire board, taking calls and facilitating them. And they've managed to reduce their operating and make it more efficient, which in turn will be cost effective. So there are some things I know the mayors want to talk about it, and I'll be talking with us as a commission about it. Thank you.
Okay. Next one, airport. They have an increase of 30.58%. That's an increase of $238,370.
I was liaison for that. Actually, the budget last year was 500 and some, I believe the actual amount shown, and Devin reduced it to 200 and some for this year. And the commission had a prior commitment to pay for the terminal, $775,000.
Yeah, I think this budget reflects now, as we move forward with that terminal, the county's share or responsibility
Right.
towards the total costs between the city and the county. And I hope this budget now will reflect those dollars that we pay into him.
It
for
actually
that
should have been
project.
separated out. The 775,000 for the new terminal was a separate agreement. And then the budgets was 580, it went down to 200 and some.
Yeah, he's,
But
for-
it's okay, as long as everyone knows.
yeah,
what it
it's
is.
just,
So
Very
on his request, he has 390,101 for, that's just the standard budget request. And then he has $627,778 for commercial terminal modernization. which
and
brings the
that's our
total-
share for,
Yes, that's the
Yeah.
counties.
yeah, for the county.
So it's just operations is the 390,101.
So he reduced almost $100,000.
Oh,
Yeah, he reduced it, yeah. quite a bit.
if I truly believe that had the COVID pandemic hadn't hit, based on
Oh, yeah.
the plan he was on and the direction he was going, he
That'd be
would have been
self-sufficient.
almost self-sufficient by now.
They're there.
Yeah, so that's good. Don't call him in.
Okay. All right, the next one is SkyWest Airlines, and that is in conjunction with the
Yeah, we
airport.
don't-
Devin
yeah.
gives me those numbers,
Right.
so we'll say no to that one. Sweetwater Medics, their request is $931,584. That's 0% increase, same as last year.
Okay.
And we no longer have a contract with them, I believe. But prior, they don't submit budget request forms, because we've always had a contract
Well,
with them.
we had the
so-
board having oversight on that group, and the board's still intact, have oversight over on the contract. So I think it'd be very wise for us to, I don't think the money hasn't changed from last year for these guys. So we might want to look at the contract, John, and have it ready so we can present it to them. And that type of thing, just the same as it was. Marty may have it, and that type of thing. So that's probably how we'll do that, is get a contract ready, very similar to what we've had in the past. So giving that ambulance board the oversight, and they're willing to have oversight over the contract as it's stated.
Okay.
Okay.
So no for them. The next one is Title 25. The hospital budgeted 273,488. It's the same as the prior year. I did increase the other portion of the Title 25 by $5,000 just because we are seeing an overage in that this year. But it's lumped into the hospitals too, so we haven't done a budget amendment for it, but I did increase it just because we're seeing those other costs
That's
increase.
statutory driven.
Yes,
Thank you.
it is. So no on that one.
No.
Okay.
Nothing we can do.
Yeah, no.
All right, and then the next one is COVID-19 response. That's just the amount we have left sitting in there out of that 150,000. It's 92,906.32. So that is not a request. That's just what we have left.
Excuse me, when you say that's what's left of the COVID-19
Yes.
response, is that the,
150,000, the 50,000 we got from each cities, and then the $50,000 that we contributed.
okay. Because I believe based on the grants that Christina has been facilitating through whether it's emergency management or through COVID-19, we were informed that we were nearly whole to a point of $149,500.
Okay.
So that's something to keep in mind. And that's so that then brings the question in my mind is you might have a visit with Christina and see
Okay.
if there's any reimbursements from COVID that would impact our budget
Okay. I can do that.
in the grants.
All right, that is all of the outside agencies. Moving on to the last page.
Oh, there's another page.
There's one more page. We are almost done.
Oh,
So the last page is just, there are other funds. So this money actually doesn't come out of the general fund. So by changing any of these amounts, it's not gonna affect that deficit that we have. So we have the grants. So there's a decrease there of 34.89%. And these are just the expenditures. So these are I call them the self-sufficient funds because they pretty much produce their own revenue, with the exception of grants. The difference between the revenue and the expenditures is just funded. It is funded out of the general fund, but the rest of these they don't spend money out of the general fund. So we've got grants, county roads, impact tax, inmate enterprise, drug seizure, parks and rec, the road fund, CDC building fund, and the health insurance fund. So I didn't know if you wanted to do anything with those. Generally, we don't, just because it doesn't change anything. They're pretty self-sufficient. So any comments on those? It is the same. Oh, they budgeted that. They actually have to segregate that out because if they confiscate drugs or money or anything like that, they have to use it for specific purposes. That's why it's segregated out. So they actually haven't had actuals. And then this year they actually have had $1,062, but that was how much they had sitting in there that they needed to spend for specific purposes. So that's why that's separated out. All right, that is all I had. Are there any questions? Did we want to talk about that reserves and how much you're willing to spend out of reserves this year?
I think with Rob leaving and talking about 6.5 that we talked about,
Is that what you want your target amount to be this year?
I would ask commissioners if they're okay with that. 6.5 out of the reserves.
That was what my understanding was
Yeah.
when we talked about the base reserve and then how we were gonna move forward. So yeah, I'm good with that.
I think
Okay.
we need to hold ourselves to that. because
Okay.
we agreed to it, so I think you can.
And then use the 500,000 in cash carryover, I assume. I know it's not helping much. And then I will take out the, that rescue plan funding too.
Check that out,
Okay.
please.
Okay, so you'll have to cut around, see, 5.5, about 5.5, 5.6, if I'm doing my math right, which I don't trust if it's in my head. 12. Yeah, about 5.6.
20% on the outside.
Yeah, I think we're good.
That was easy.
Did
Oh,
that with what?
That
Yeah, right.
$4,500 would knock that really off.
I'm tired.
The rest
That's all
was
I
up
have
there.
to
Not
say.
looking yet. Okay, anything else?
I don't think so. I will follow up with you on those things that you have requested, and then I'll follow up with those liaisons that were over the ones that you were going to discuss. I will email everyone and let them know that we are going to have a budget message at the very beginning of the next budget workshop. And let everyone know that they are invited, and that's including everyone, right? That's all outside agencies, component units, department heads, elected officials, everyone. I'll have invited to the Zoom portion of that. And then I will let everyone know who we are meeting with, their times, once we can get that scheduled.
They can do Zoom or in person.
Okay, I will let them know. And I think that's everything. So yeah, I will just be getting in touch with you all with the maybes and the names that I wrote down and find out if you do want to meet with them or not. And then I will get out everything else you requested. I will start working on that. Any other requests that you have of me to provide, any information you would like me to provide, other than the things that have been discussed? If you come up with anything, just let me know. Email me, talk to me. Yes.
She has all along. And there's nothing, there was a time when some of these conversations were in Marvel by now, but as far as I'm concerned, it's now been catch the Marvel. It's a conversation. It needs to be, if that's okay with everyone. Okay, anything else on for this? workshop?
I don't have anything else. That's all I have for you.
Commissioners, anything else? With that, workshop adjourned.
Thank you.